Yeah, Heimdall was doing some swinging in our previous set as well. Welcome back to Championship Sunday, everybody. We're over in North America now. It is Dolson and Wormy to bring you through the North American semifinals here. One team to punch their ticket on through. Quick thoughts to kind of wrap up Europe, though, Wormy. Maybe expected that belt slap goes through, but kind of this weekend as a whole for them, obviously it's a big win, but a lot of those European teams starting to step up.
Yeah, it really took belt slap an L to the face to say, all right, that's it, we're not losing another one, and that's exactly what we saw. They came back without taking a single loss today. They say 3-1 over in the middle bracket there, but honestly, that's just there because they got defeated earlier in the tournament, and they came back with a winning strategy, and they popped off. That's all there is to say.
They sure did. 5 straight games today, and then, of course, that one a technicality. Over here in North America, Baskin and the boys and Ganta Tahiti, are going to be the two battling it out to make their way towards Locked and Goated. So actually very similar storylines over here in North America. The far and ahead favorite in Baskin and the boys defeated in that second round by Locked and Goated 2-1. So now they drop down, and then again, it's an SOC team in Ganta Tahiti that will be facing off against Baskin and the boys. So we saw a little bit of it over in Europe. Do you think this Baskin and the boys team comes in, a little chip on their shoulder, maybe not quite as flawless as Belt Slap had been, but maybe a similar vein there?
Yeah, the only difference here between them and Belt Slap is that they actually took the set in the first day over Ganta Tahiti as a 2-0. Right. So maybe they just bring it on back, take their free shot to the finals, and then fight it out there. But like you said, we saw Ganta Tahiti do a great job yesterday up against Bloogie and the Woogies. So if they're able to run back that performance, who knows? Maybe put Cope back on Aries, and we'll see what happens.
We'll have to see what happens there. This has been a weekend where these SOC teams, I think, have surprised a lot of people. They've shown up, and not only have they put up fights, they've knocked out some very important teams here in this tournament. For keeping the vein along this Ganta Tahiti thread, I think Mando Warrior is important to look at, not only because he's a strong solo laner here for his team, but his matchup with Uzi today, I think very important. How important, I suppose, Lermy, do you think Mando Warrior is to this Ganta Tahiti team?
He definitely is a unique member of the squad. He plays a bunch of different things, as you can see here, pulling out the Chronos here in this game that we've got right up for you. But even still, he's more of a Guardian player than a Warrior player. And, of course, Guardians do get to show up from time to time over in the solo lane. So if that is the case, perhaps then he could pull out something spicy. We've seen his Kuzenbo many a times, but they seem to be actually getting some success on the Ares pick. And, of course, Mando is not afraid of picking that one up himself, so maybe he decides to go for something spicy like that, bring it out. And even yesterday we saw him pick up Geb, and I was casting that set, and believe me when I did not believe that he was going to make it out of that lane alive, but he found a way to make Geb solo work and popped off afterward.
Yeah, certainly it's flexible. You can tell. I think one of those clips was a Zhang Kui, which I don't think we've seen in months, so obviously from a previous iteration there, but the flexibility standpoint I still think is absolutely there for Mando. Of course, we kind of mention him. Of course, he's a strong point for his team, but I think going up against Uzi, if we're really trying to highlight everyone from this Baskin and the boys team here this weekend, of course, Baskin is going to be kind of the banner carrier for this squad. But Uzi has kind of been an unsung hero, I think, here this weekend, Lermy, and the matchup with Mando is going to be important from the opposite side as well. Uzi's been able to withstand a good bit of pressure, turn it around, and help his team in a lot of fights.
Yeah, Uzi is also another very unique case because he plays a lot of random things as well. He brought Nike back over to the solo lane after Sino took her into the jungle, and he also brings out the Odin. In fact, he really loves the Odin, so we did see it yesterday, and it did work out for them in the end to bring them up into this top of the lower bracket, so perhaps he might even choose to whip out his secret main again in this next set.
Actually, this is the matchup we're really looking at here. So think back. This is Uzi versus Mando earlier here in this weekend. The first replay was, and that was where Uzi was able to solo kill Mando twice in lane. So I imagine some tug and pull here today in the solo lane, whether it's through the jungle ganks or just one pick can kind of out-bully the other. I think Nike will be pretty prioritized here. This is a team that really likes this pick. Sometimes we see it paired with this Amaterasu in the jungle, or they kind of flip-flop where one or the other is. Do you imagine Nike will play an important role in picks and bans. Whether Gauntlet Tahiti want to pick it themselves, do you think it's important enough maybe on the flip side to take away from Uzzy?
It really could be. I can see it being an important pick here, but I don't necessarily know if that's the choice. And like we talked about, Mando likes to go for the Guardian, so maybe even going something counter to that, picking up something super high pressure could work out, but it honestly could go either way. It's got to fit in with the rest of their draft too, because as we talked about yesterday, it wasn't a whole lot to go with that Odin, but even still, the way that Uzzy performed on that made it stand out beyond that. So in a closer matchup between these two, it might really depend on how the synergy works between the pick and the rest of the squad.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Uzzy certainly flexible as well as Mando is. Lots of matchups, I think, across the board to look at here, especially for picks and bans and how these two teams will decide to build out that strategy. I mean, in there's so many, we kind of had a tough time, I think, deciding exactly who to highlight for this matchup, because across the board, there's a lot of fun, I think, to look at. And again, if we're drawing similarities to that belt slap versus smiley face composition, like Baskin versus Sops is such a fun mid lane matchup, I think, to watch. Sops has surprised a lot of people here this weekend, and then you have to wonder if Gauntlet Tahiti are going to take a little extra away from Baskin. I mean, there's so much at play here. Especially now that you're in that second pick slot, you need to decide exactly who it is you're giving over to Baskin and the boys. Ganesh continues to be towards the highest priority as far as that support role goes here this weekend. Heimdall, of course, no surprise from the Hunter role. Hunbat's there to follow after. But if we're kind of looking back on that Ganesh ban, is that something that surprises you at this point? I mean, maybe it shouldn't because of how much we've seen it. Why then, maybe, is there so much priority?
Honestly, he's just a really easy character to get down. You have that silence that you can channel for a long period of time, and especially up against a character like a Nike who is really dependent on keeping her abilities up, being able to cancel basically all of them is super nice to hold her down and accountable for basically what she does, because that's really the whole theme of Nike. The reason why she gets played so much is because it's so dang easy to hit that rend, and you press the 2 button, and I guess I just push you forever, right? So just having some way to stop her from being so dang annoying is really nice to have, but not in this game going to be the Ganesh, and followed up by a bunch of jungle bans by Baskin and the boys, and some additional magical side bans for Gauntlet Tahiti.
Yeah, Mollusk, phenomenal in the jungle here for Gauntlet Tahiti, so certainly no surprise there. We figured Nike would be important here in this matchup, and Baskin and the boys agree, and we'll assume for the time being that goes over to Uzzy. We have seen Nike in the jungle here and there. We'll have to see what Masked wants to play for Baskin and the boys later on. That, of course, leaves open the Morgan here for Gauntlet Tahiti. And again, assuming that'll be Sops in the mid lane. A super strong pick. We just saw Zeros do massive damage with this Morgan in our previous game. And obviously warrants maybe this first overall priority.
I agree with the priority. I just don't know if I necessarily think that Sops will do the same kind of job that we just saw Zeros do.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Sops play this once before in the tournament, and he didn't have the best performance on it. I believe that's when he lost up against Baskin and the boys the previous time, so hopefully this time it's a little bit of a cleaner performance, but even still, we kind of saw that before, where some players will have a game where they struggle, so they bring it back in the next one, and clearly this is a revenge match. We'll have to see if Gauntlet Tahiti can take down Baskin and the boys, so if there's any way to prove your worth on a character, now's the time.
Yeah, it's an uphill battle for them for sure. But Baskin and the boys are going to draft themselves some strength with their second and third overall picks. Raijin, throughout this weekend, has shown us time and time again that a little extra love and care in that mid lane early on can really start to snowball things out of control for you. If you're playing a Raijin, some ganks start to go your way, you get some kills behind you, and the wind beneath your sails starts to really roll. So I like Raijin here for Baskin. You give the guy a playmaking mid laner, and he's certainly going to do something with it. Now, Ullr's been in an interesting spot, Wormy. I hesitate to try to remember the last time we've really seen him, the kind of roller coaster of priority, not only here in the SEC, but just in SMITE competitive in general this year. He's in a bit of an interesting spot at the moment.
Yeah, he has been banned out quite frequently. The issue here is that he has a couple of weaknesses in that he doesn't have any CC immunity in his kit, but honestly, that's really it. He's got pressure for days, and he scales super well into the late game, so having those strengths on your carry is really, really nice, but he's got to be careful that he doesn't get picked out here by this Terra once she gets to the point of the game where she actually can exist. Right. Getting that Earth and Fury off onto this Ullr could spell death, especially if Raijen's able to pop the Raiju on him. Those couple of ticks will be able to help in terms of popping that ultimate and bursting him down.
Yeah, I think we'd be remiss now kind of cycling back on the Ganesh ban and now the Terra pickup. If we're kind of thinking back to what happened to Baskin and the boys yesterday, was if Gino wasn't allowed to play this Ganesh, you kind of go down his tier list of supports. Not to say he played bad, but there was kind of a noticeable difference maybe in the way that they play that lane. So obviously the first overall ban, smart there for Gauntlet Tahiti. We'll have to see what the Terra is paired with to make that long lane a little bit more comfortable for Meerkat and Gino. And Athena, a fun pick there. If that's with that Ullr, I mean, you talk about early kill pressure there. You get a taunt immediately into an axe or vice versa. First blood, kills later on in that lane, certainly on the table.
I think we're still going to have to wait another pick forward because it could honestly be going over to Mando. I don't think that would be a bad pick at all, and I like the idea. It kind of does the same thing that Ganesh does in terms of being able to interrupt someone from doing these channeled abilities, or even stopping the Terra mid-dash is something that the Athena excels on, but the way that Mando has been playing, it could be going over to him, but honestly, if I'm giving it to anyone, it's going to Cope.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's such a strong lane to put in those two hands. It is an Ares locked in final overall. 22% pick/ban rate here, but the 100% win rate may be the most interesting number. Does the Ares pick stand out as something that you agree with here to round out the draft for Gauntlet Tahiti?
I think it works out pretty well. There are a couple of characters, the Hu Yi and Erlang Shen particularly, that will practically get pulled in every single time by that Ares, assuming there's a beads burner, and look at their comp. Every single one of them burn beads in some way or another,
Sure do.
So this draft so far I'm really liking, but the big question mark for me is where is this Ares going? We've seen Cope have it a time before, so it might be going to him, but like I was talking about, I kind of like the Athena matchup better, but the big question mark is Athena is kind of better into Nike, so perhaps the fact that they picked both those Guardians means that it's doing a little flip-flop from what I initially thought.
Yeah, there's a lot of kind of moving parts here that can work one way or the other for Gauntlet Tahiti. Baskin and the boys, I think, also have a draft that they'll be happy with up to this point. A lot of this maybe hinges around this long lane here. I mean, if Gino and Meerkat can stay safe throughout this laning phase, I think they've gotten themselves a pretty good shot. Baskin and the boys, Gauntlet Tahiti, a shot in the finals on the line. Game number 1, let's kick it off.
Great job breaking it down on the desk as we do indeed move into game number 1 between Baskin and the boys gone to Tahiti. We're wondering, where is this Ares going to be going? Where's the Athena going? We've got our answer, and Gino's got some problems. He's already under duress on the left-hand side. Beads, though, allow him to escape, ends up being A-okay. And yeah, already pressure over here for Gino. We know Terra can struggle in the early, especially if she gets relics and health forced out for free.
That's certainly true, but both teams are going to have struggles in the early. GTT has a very execution-focused comp here. If they fall behind anywhere on the map, every single one of these gods is going to be so exploitable. A behind Morrigan means that if she stealths in and looks for a stun, it's just not going to work. If Cope moves up and gets picked out ever, this immobile Guardian won't work. Execution focus doesn't mean bad. It just means that they have to play very well in the early.
It certainly does. And do you all think they'll be able to play up to that level? If you think so, let us know in the poll. Vote right now in the actual chat. And that way we all will know what is it you think will happen later on. But as you're saying, that execution as a focus for Gauntlet Tahiti, I think is not such a bad idea. It gives them so many options. No assassins in this game. All these warriors and guardians means that if this does end up going, a bit later, they've got plenty of people to be that initiator for them, to provide that setup. And then all you need is either Diesel or Sops to be the follow-up for them later on in the game. So as long as they can make it there at least relatively close, they should have a pretty good shot. But both of these comps are really strong to me, Mefle. It's really going to come down to your in-game execution.
I agree 100%. The junglers are going to be setting the pace for both of these squads. Erlang Shen for B&B and the Amaterasu for Gauntlet Tahiti. Both are going to be looking to get as aggressive as they can in the early.
More aggression as Gino's been caught by the chains. Could spell trouble for him, but Meerkat finds the ricochet. That is enough to deter Cope and Diesel from stepping any further forward. It is scary over here in the long lane when you're up against something like an Ares, and then even more pressure coming out there from your lane partner as well, too. It's scary for a Tira who does not yet have multiple abilities online, so no surprise at all that it's been pressure for Gone to Tahiti as they're starting to wrap around in the jungle. No red buff to grab, so they'll just head over to Oracles instead.
I think that this pace that GTT is setting of just looking for aggression all over the map might come back to bite them as they just move through the jungle. They're going to lose out on a little bit of lane pressure. If the jungler decides to head over to duo and try and keep the pressure up over there and exploit the fact that Gino lost out on beads early, we might see that Mollusk falls just a little bit behind in experience. He's already about a quarter of a level down as Mass just ticks on over to level 3. But I think GTT really should be looking for these early game pressure, whereas BNB, I think they can wait it out a little bit longer before they can start to engage.
Yeah, maybe not quite as much pressure on the Baskin, the boys. And that kind of feels to me like the way that they like to play. They really do trust themselves in the late game to be able to execute better than their opponents. As Meerkat under trouble again, Beads allows him to reposition, narrowly avoids falling. I misspeak as the hail of arrows from range puts Meerkat in the dirt, and there's more action over in right. Uzi caught out when it rains, it pours, as GTT find 2 kills to start things off.
Hey, that's a strong start for both side lanes. Now GTT can fully commit to putting their pressure in the mid lane. They can make sure that Sops gets off to a good start, which is double-handed. Right now, you're going to be able to focus on keeping Baskin down, the namesake of BNB. This is smart. This is a good start for both teams. Now, Soul Lane should be able to be largely left alone. This Athena is going to be able to ult out the second she hits level 5. We might see some early objective attempts from GTT.
Having your solo laner involved earlier on in the match for pretty much for free, that's pretty hard to replace on the other side, even with having teleport in the back pocket for Uzi. So especially if Mando Warriors are ahead, problems could be on the horizon here for BNB. And this has gone to Tahiti, also playing to the identity that I feel like they have. Any squad that is led by Mollusk in the jungle should be wanting to try and get active early, exactly like we just saw, attacking both lanes at the same time, cluttering comms, making it impossible for you to respond to, and getting themselves off to a good start.
Yeah, man, I've played against Mollusk a fair bit, and I will say that his playstyle can be characterized in one word, and it's annoying. Man has no chill, he's always looking to aggress, and it works out, but it is that double-edged sword. If you don't get those early invades, those early ganks to work out for you, that's one way that you can fall behind. That's why we see that usually when you're watching Masked, for example, he waits till around level 5, finish up those boots, maybe even hits level 6, gets his ultimate online, all of these things, then he starts to look for these invades, then he starts to look for the engagements. Whereas Mollusk, I think from minute 1, his entire plan is seeing red and finding kills.
Can you blame it? So often does work out for him. And as you mentioned, it carries that extra risk with it, but I think it's the way that he likes to play. I think it is just his traditional style, so don't ask him to change. You're just trying to help it work out better for him, as it looks like Meerkat has been left on his own. Cope's still here. They're looking to full-on pressure out this long lane. A lot of the times when you get pressure for something like an Uller over there, you would leave him alone as soon as possible, but Cope is sticking around. They are not going to give Meerkat any chance to try and farm for free.
I like that play a lot. Uzi moving up.
But remember, the Mando Warrior has the Defender of Olympus. It ends up letting them find the first kill. Somehow Mando is still alive through it all. Now the no escape means that Uzi gets pulled back in. 4 kills unanswered now here for Gone to Tahiti, as the early game has already flown off the rails for Baskin and the boys.
Yeah, this is looking tough. Now 1,500 gold in 5 minutes. This is insane, that lead that they've already established. They're 4-0. They're on par to hit a kill every single minute. I guess I just got used to watching EU for a while, and I forgot that we're back in North America where things get moving quickly.
Yeah, even low HP Mollusk considering joining. Now he'll take the back even with a potential purple buff invade in the cards. And that might influence the rest of Gone to Tahiti. They're falling back, allowing the purple to be started up. Now the chains come through to lock down Gino. The stun is good. Stuck inside the Suns as well. But now Diesel's on the way, and he's all the damage. But the numbers should favor Baskin and the boys, as Baskin has made his way over. And Cope is just an Ares. There is no way out of this purple buff pit for him. A kill every day of the week for Baskin and the boys as soon as they decide they're ready for it. Meerkat gets that last hit, and finally they get on the board.
This Ares still level 4, 5 minutes in. It's not a big deal there, but getting Baskin another kill, especially considering, or an assist rather, is going to be huge. He fell down in the early. He's already a level down on Sops. And with Morgan, this is what's going to happen when she's ahead. She stealths into your jungle. She takes away 80% of your health. Had she had the ultimate available there, Baskin likely would have lost out on his life. That's good discipline from him not to use his beads. I 100% panic beads there.
Malice making a rotation, and Gino is going to die before he even gets there. Good dive bomb from Meerkat to reposition, but they could absolutely dive this. No way the Hunter survives, and it's a double for the Uller. A 3-0-0 Ull to start off is absolutely problems.
Yeah, Transcendence already at 30 stacks as well. We're 6 minutes in. I got to keep remembering how early on in the match we are.
Big defender of Olympus, though, keeps Sops alive through all this damage. Taunt actually brings Bask back in, but Sops gets the stun, is able to find the beads for the CC immunity, and the slow from Mando. Warrior keeps Uzi from following up. So now it's time for the no escape round 2. Uzi pulled right back in, and Mando is there waiting for him. Good Taiko drums from Baskin is still not enough to save Uzi's life as he falls as well. Gone to Tahiti are absolutely outclassing B&B in the early.
And it seems like B&B is just getting sucked into Gone to Tahiti's pace. They're matching the aggression instead of backing up and trying to farm up and get some of that gold back passively. Instead, it seems like everywhere GTT goes, B&B are just willing to take the fight to them, bring it there. Baskin's been rotating around the map the entirety of the time. He's always in left or right, fighting in the jungle somewhere. And that's going to match GTT. They're happy with it. They're setting this pace for a reason.
Diesel continuing to put damage into Gino. Also worth noting, right now, Uzi 0-3-0. How often is your solo laner sitting on 3 deaths this early into the game, 7.5 minutes in? It doesn't happen often. Uzi's been sucked into these fights by Mando, and they haven't had an answer. And Gino, surprise, surprise, you are in a whole lot of trouble, using the ultimate to get right through the wall stun, sets up another kill onto the Terra, and Meerkat must run to his tier 2 tower for shelter.
Yeah, because that tier 1, it's down already. It's already down. There's no safety in the long lane for Meerkat. He's got to sit inside the tier 2. This level of aggression, this early tower and duo, could be a double-edged sword. Now GTT are going to push up to tier 2 if they want to farm out that lane, but they also get a free way into Gold Fury.
And they've already got it pulled, and I really don't see a world where Baskin and the boys can contest this. Gold Fury goes down for free to Gone to Tahiti. And it's funny, Myth, before we got into this game, you know, we were talking behind the scenes, like, you know, what would Gone to Tahiti have to do to win this game? And you said Malice just needs to bring 1/15 of what El Leon brought yesterday, and that's kind of what this is, right? That same relentless pressure he had with the Awilish, we're seeing happening now, but it's not just Malice. Mando's involved, Malice and Sops and Diesel and Cope, all 5 of them are pushing on the gas from minute 1.
Yeah, I'd say that every single member of GTT is channeling the spirit of Leon right now.
Cope, though, is certainly going to take a spill, just walking up to Baskin, not respecting the damage. But Sops, a one-man army, turns into the Athena for a kill. Diesel blows up Mask in the left lane. Was that a gank? I don't know exactly what happened there, but another kill going the way of Gone to Tahiti as Baskin and the boys starting to flounder.
If Sops didn't do the combo in reverse there, had he done Dark Omen before he goes into the stun, he wouldn't have got that kill. But since he sets it up afterward, transforming into Athena, easily sets up the explosion on that ability. That's such smart play. That's heads up. And now that you're Athena, you have a safe way out. You have a taunt to peel for yourself.
All right, I'm glad they finally chose not to. I thought they was going to keep pushing the tier 2, but they elected to back up.
Yeah, smart on him. I mean, we're 9 minutes in, tier 2 push. Meerkat, you know, he's playing it right. He's sitting inside there. There's no way that they're going to dive him right now. With Gold Fury being down, I'm surprised to see that GTT is still continuing their pressure on the long side of the map. I imagine we'll see Maul start to rotate in towards mid, match this 3v3, and then work their way towards Pyro.
Baskin didn't have beads or his ultimate, so he was a sitting duck for the no escape in middle lane, and Sops waiting there to help complete the kill for Malice. Now it's the dazzling offensive. Gino does find the dash, but gets caught on the backside anyway. The chains land. Even Diesel's here to get involved as all 5 members have gone to Tahiti, running it down mid. Now they're going to collect a tier 1 tower. What is this relentless early game pressure? Baskin and the boys do not have an answer.
Are they going for the tier 2 here? That's a smart play. No one's in range to defend it. They could do this and then immediately back up to the Pyro. Mask your butt, one man. Don't step up.
Yeah, he cannot handle this. Goes back in. I understand that heal's coming later, but I don't know if it's soon enough. He elects to leave. But this tier 2 tower belongs to Gone to Tahiti. That's one of the earliest tier 2s you'll ever see, especially in the middle lane. And it just does not happen.
And now that even though all of GTT have to back up here, best case for BNB is maybe they sneak their way towards Pyromancer, but they can't feel confident about it knowing how far behind they are. I mean, the slash line's 12-2. We're 10 minutes in. I keep emphasizing the time because it's a surprise to me every time I look at the clock. GTT, with the lead that they have right now, nearly 6,000 gold, they can continue to find this pressure. They can look for fights in the enemy jungle. There's no bastions of safety in mid ever again. They have to go all the way back to their Phoenix, BNB that is, if they get forced out at all. TKOs might as well be guaranteed KOs. Pyromancer, I believe, is where GTT are going to head up to next, and I'm not sure that BNB even have the will or the way to fight into it.
It'd be risky for sure. Hard to think that it'd be worth it, but that's the thing. If this snowball continues, then at a certain point, Baskin and the boys are going to have to take a bad fight because there just won't be a good one. They'll be too far behind. It's a question of deciding when that will have to happen. But everywhere on the map, Gone to Tahiti have control. And I know it's 12-2 in the kills, but those 2 deaths are only on Cope, and he's still ahead in his matchup. I don't think Gone to Tahiti are sweating it at all. As Defender of Olympus means it's time to get aggressive again. Mast will be the target, locked down, and Mollis gets yet another kill. Baskin goes up to the Taiko drums, and that is big damage onto Mollis to allow them to get another kill. Maybe Gone to Tahiti have finally overstepped, but the whole squad's here. They'll brawl in between the Tier 2 and Phoenix. 12 minutes in, no escape. Pulls 2 members in. Sops gets the kill underneath the Tier 2 tower, and still, Baskin and the boys running low on answers. Mando blinks in for a 2-man taunt, but they just don't have the damage. This is too far forward to be looking to fight.
But Ozzy's going to jump in anyway. Now he's the lone survivor amongst 3 members of GTT.
And they're able to find one more kill. Ozzy does by leaping in, and Gone to Tahiti finally deciding to lick their wounds and start to disengage. Even going to look to strip away the red buff? No, they'll think better of that one. They're a little bit too far forward, and Baskin and the boys are letting them know here at this point. Mask might even be able to find a little bit more punish. Root into the 9 turns blessing, pulls Cope right back in for another kill. Sobs does find the stun, but Ozzy a little bit too tinky to fall just to Mollis. Gets Sobs, maybe I misspoke. Mollis goes back in and shuts him down one more time.
We're not going to pretend that that was a clean engagement from GTT, but when you have the lead that you do, you can move up and you can take these losses. I get to hit him with the aggro special for the one time here. BNB Mask dies at level 9. His respawn timer is so low, he's able to re-engage on the exact same fight and pick up a return kill to pick up another level as well. That's nice, but still, BNB haven't been able to get anything off of these slight wins. They can't move up towards the Gold Fury. They can't look towards these towers because of where the fights are originating for GTT. They're forcing them to engage behind the Tier 2 towers, at your own back camps. Even if you win at this point in the game, as low as the respawn timers are, there's no way that BNB can move towards an objective.
Gone to Tahiti, we're considering starting up the Fury here at this point, and I would have said it was a good idea as long as Mando Warrior has that ultimate and he can be in that fight quickly. They're all good fights for Gone to Tahiti at this point. But you're right, man. One of the best things about being in the lead myth is that you can force your opponents to do anything other than farm and expand your lead, as Ozzy's starting to lure to the middle lane. Caught a little bit of damage there from Sops, but he's A-okay. The whole point is to not allow them to try and farm back up and catch up. Keep forcing them to have to show up to these fights instead of catching back up.
Look at the positioning of the soul laners for both teams. Ozzy has to hover near mid because the threat of the Gold Fury, whereas this Athena, Mando, he can just keep pushing and then ult in the second he's needed.
Wow, Baskin and the boys are starting this Fury. Good luck is all that I can say considering the deficit, but Cope is very low already. Baskin gets the very first kill of the fight. Mando Warrior in the back is low as well, but Sops takes care of Meerkat. Baskin is in trouble too. Gone to Tahiti, we're on your back line the whole time. Mask ends up dropping. They may have gotten the kill in the Mando, but all the damage is still here for GTT, and they're not stopping yet.
3 for 2 so far in favor of GTT. They have to be happy with it. Tier 2 is going to go down. They can very easily back up towards the Gold Fury as well. It's not clean engagements. These are mud fights through and through. Let there be no mistake about it. But GTT is just going to keep running with it because of the early game. Sure, you trade out Mando Warrior. Not a big deal. Sure, Cope goes down before the engagement truly starts. Not a big deal because you win out in these small engagements, get the TKO on 2 members, and immediately pick up a ton of objectives on the tail end of it. Now, Primal Fury's down. Pyromancer is going to be a lot easier to clear out, as is Fire Giant. It's pretty early in the game to be talking about Fire, but still, we're looking at nearly 10,000 gold 15 minutes in. I don't think it's out of the question.
If it's not, it really isn't. It feels like Gone to Tahiti can go basically wherever they want to on the map. And I know these are dirty mud fights, you're 100% correct, but I want to give Gone to Tahiti a little bit of credit for at least the way that they're starting, because even when it looks bad, like Baskin, the boys are getting a pick, it's never onto the priority targets. How much danger truly were Sops and Diesel in that last fight? Well, let's check on their relics. That's a good indication. Looks like they were A-OK. And that's just how all the fights are going to be, as Cope continues to aggress Mando's here as that front line, so that the rest of the squad can find plenty of damage for safety, leaving Uzi isolated, who has to retreat.
Losing out on the Taiko drums there is going to be absolutely crippling. Now Baskin can't move up. He doesn't have the CC immunity of his ultimate. His beads are down for a full minute. If GTT want to, they can back up, spend the gold they just got from Pyromancer, regroup on fire, and Baskin still won't have his ultimate available. Take a look at Sops' build as well. He's already got the Doom Orb. He's already got the Spear of Desolation. Picked up a double kill in the last fight. That's so much cooldown reset. That's likely the reason he didn't get forced into using his relics. My man was just invisible the entire time.
Good luck trying to track him down amongst everything that's been happening so far. 6-0-5 for Sops, 4-0-5 for Diesel as they remain comfortable. And Mollis, the man starting it all, 6-1-6. Gino continuing to learn what a 10,000 gold deficit at 16 minutes means. It means that's not your blue buff anymore, man. Be careful where you go, or Gone to Tahiti will show up there and take your lunch money. That's what it feels like right now, truly.
I mean, 4 levels up in the jungle, 1 level up in solo, 3 levels up in mid. No one on the side of B&B should be allowed to move up past their tier 2 towers, which is indicative of the map state, right? Those tier 2 towers don't exist anymore because it's not a safe spot.
Gino took so much damage. That's just had to be from Mollis, right? Maybe a bit from Diesel. Not quite able to get there with the dazzling offensive is Mollis. The two members escape with low HP, but that means Gone to Tahiti can recollapse back onto the front line, try and take down Uzi early, but the Sentinel of Zeus provides a ton of HP. That's why Cope goes into the ultimate with the no escape, gets the beads out from Baskin. Both teams look like they were in a bad fight, but only one team is healthy enough to stick around as Uzi falls once more.
Look, my heart goes out to Uzi there. He did the best that he absolutely could. He was moving in. He zoned off Sops and Diesel about on his own for nearly 30 seconds despite this huge deficit, but the damage output from BNB's backline couldn't match the damage output of GTT's. Baskin lands every single ability into Mollusk, and Mollusk just walks out relatively healthy, picks himself up a Fire Giant, backs up to pick off Uzi as well. It's just not going well now. The defense now is what we got to really focus on. The siege defense for BNB is whether or not Raijin can find huge damage from a range. It's all going to come down to Taiko drums and Gino finding an engage. Short of that, Mask being level 13 with no defense in his build means that this frontliner, this Erlang Shen, is not a frontliner anymore. He's got to play like an assassin or a hunter. That's how squishy he is. Meerkat's damage output is incredibly low. He doesn't have any crit online just yet. He doesn't have any tank buster online. My man is going to have to struggle to find every single bit of damage. It's going to be hard for BNB.
Look at the net worth charts. I mean, even the lowest member in value on Tahiti is above the highest on Baskin and the boys. I believe that's Cope and Uzi, respectively. And that just goes to show how dominant this game has been for Tahiti so far. And to your point about Baskin hitting everything in that last fight, he's at the top in terms of player damage at 12,000, but it's all getting mitigated. This Oni Hunter's Garb from Mollis, the Defender of Olympus from Mando Warrior, nothing is hitting for that true value for B&B, and Gone to Tahiti are just tanking right through it. Now, with Fire Giant on everybody, they're right at the doorstep of a Phoenix siege.
And instead of pushing down the traditional long lane Phoenix, they've grouped up on mid. Despite there being a tier 2 tower up in solo, they're feeling incredibly confident.
Meerkat's beads forced instantaneously here. Vasquez uses the ultimate just to get away from Mollis. They actually get the kill on the Mollis, who dived too far on his own, as Uzi were able to keep two people zoned out by themselves. And Gone to Tahiti have to clean this up a little bit more. They're sending Mollis in a bit too far on his own for a Phoenix dive.
Yeah, he's got Oni Hunters, but that's it as far as defense goes. Mollis is just a little bit overconfident in his engage. I mean, can you blame him? How the game's been going so far, right. I would have thought he would have gone unpunished as well. But GTT, losing one member, not that big of a deal here. He's going to be back in 30 seconds. You pick up a tier 2 tower anyway. Gold Fury's respawning in the next 10 seconds. They might head there, and then regroup, push down the lanes, try to split it up, diversify your approach on these Phoenixes. If Gone to Tahiti decide to split the push 4-1, 3-2, however they want to, no 3-man center group of BNB is going to be able to match anything that GTT puts forward. Splitting up what BNB has should be the entirety of the plan when you move into these Phoenixes, because the only way BNB wins is 100% pure, unadulterated, perfect team play.
And Uzi's the man right now. He shouldn't get to frontline anything considering the numbers, but he's been doing well for his squad. Gino has been caught not nearly as tanky as the Nike, and he will be pulled back by this no escape. The squad considering stepping forward to try and help out as Gino manages to live through it, but Sops cuts off the escape, and the Terra will crumble to the ground. Gone to Tahiti. Could fall back for gold if they want to, but they're grouped up. They know they got the 5v4. They're just going to try and go right to the Phoenix.
Yeah, 30 seconds left on that respawn. It's all on Baskin now. Meerkat's going to have to do something huge as well, but they have the ultimates available.
Uzi has gone in first. He's done this whole fight. Baskin with the Taiko drums puts really good damage into Mollusk. His mask steps forward to clean up that kill. So now it's a 4v3 in favor of Gaunt's Tahiti and Uzi, the only frontline that BNB have.
That's a fantastic trade for Mask. If Mask is dying and getting anything in return for it at this point, he's done his job. No defense, his damage output isn't even that high with the build that he has. If he's able to pick up anyone, he's gotten huge value, and it actually stops GTT's push in its tracks. It's not still that big of a deal. They can back up to gold 3. 21 minutes into the game, this gold lead is becoming outrageous, and GTT are now rapidly approaching full build. A lot of them are quickly ticking up to 20. The lowest level on the team is 14, matching the enemy support as well. But Cope's the support. I don't care what level he is as long as he gets those relics online, and he got huge value out of the shell there, mitigating a ton of Baskin's ult damage.
I like that this Spellbound Kusari is being picked up though from Mollusk right now. It's about the only thing in the game that kills him is Baskin in Taiko drum, so any additional magical prots are going to go big for him to try and help out up against all that damage right now. But I feel like Myth, this is how a comeback starts. A little bit sloppy from Gaunt's Tahiti in the way they've gone about these Phoenix Sieges. If they were dotting their I's and crossing their T's and bringing all the minion waves down and threatening the proper way and splitting up that defense, there's no way BNB would have repelled them twice.
Yeah, GTT got swept up in their own pace, I'd say. They just keeping this breakneck speed. BNB got sucked into it. It makes sense that GTT would as well, but it seems like they're willing now to slow down just a little bit, regroup around the fire, make sure you get your objectives, get those wards forward. I really do want to see them split the push. It seemed like they were going to for a moment before they got that pick, and then they decided to go for the 5-on-4 engagement, which makes sense. But Mollusk can't be the first one in there. Cope is still a lot tankier. Mando is still the best engagement that GTT has. But Mollusk seems to just be jumping the gun a little bit on every single one of these sieges.
The run-it-down strategy has worked for Gaunt to Tahiti up until now. It's gotten them this magnificent lead up against a really strong opponent, but they cannot allow that power to get out of their control. Make sure they do these pushes the right way, and I like this better. Pushing down right, they've got Mollusk pushing up mid, a two-pronged attack.
Look, 23 minutes in, 13,000 gold. They're allowed to make some mistakes. BNB are going to have to stop 3 or 4 more pushes before I think we get back to a state of even.
And that's some trouble for Gino. He's been brought down low. The suns coming out from Meerkat do force the rest of Tahiti back as well. But this is the strength of having to push down 2 waves. They have to worry about mid and right all at the same time.
Neither team has any sustain outside of this Terra either, so every time GTT just barely threatens in, moves up, forces an ultimate, the push is just going to get a little bit easier.
Taunt lands on the Meerkat. That gets the beads out from him. Mando takes a lot of damage and respond as the Taiko drums have to be forced to be put onto Cope instead. And Cope is falling low, but that might be it for all the abilities. Mando Warrior's ultimate doesn't go onto Cope, but no escape does pull in Uzi. He ends up falling low, but they don't have the damage. Finally, Cope gets the last shot in, and Uzi ends up falling, but Baskin has used the Thunder Crash aggressively. He knows he has a chance to cut down the Ares, makes it 1-for-1, but Gino can't withstand all the punishment. It ends up being 2-for-1 in favor of GTT.
Baskin just jumped in and the GTT allowed that to happen? They just watched Mando Warrior die from 20 feet away? BNB, they're doing great. They're doing a fantastic job stopping these pushes, but GTT are making it so easy for them. They're not splitting the push. They're allowing BNB to take the best fight possible, which is the 5-on-5 engagement. And if it goes this way 1 or 2 more times, they're rapidly approaching 20 themselves. Sure, they're level 18 across the board for their carries, but Baskin's already ticked over to 20. The builds are starting to approach 5th or 6th item for some of their carries. This lead is only going to last so long as time allows. It doesn't matter if you're 30,000 gold up at 30 minutes in, 35 minutes in. Once everyone's full build, you're going to hit a state of equivalent power. BNB have plenty of towers to get worked through too. If they wipe GTT one more time cleanly, that gold lead's going to be cut nearly in half just from the last remaining structures.
And Miff, here's the thing. I'd even be okay with throwing all 5 people at the same Phoenix, too, if they did it correctly, but instead of engaging in waves, they're going in all at once. When your Athena goes in and gets that taunt on the Meerkat, forces his beads out, you can reset and dash in again, but Meerkat's cutting it off with his ultimate. It's making it hard for Gone to Tahiti to go all in. They're gonna have to take a slower, more methodical approach.
They need to move in, force a relic, force an ultimate, back up, move in again, and continue to do that. They can leverage the sustain for Fire Giant, but they haven't decided to yet.
Oh, couldn't even finish the analysis before Meerkat was deleted from the map. They go to Baskin right away, too. You can go all in if you get rid of the carries early. It works this time as Meerkat falls, but Baskin able to reposition. Mid-Phoenix goes down as well, as still Baskin, the boys' front line, is relatively healthy, but that has not deterred Sops from going in. As soon as he de-transforms, Baskin, the boys, pops him. It's 1-for-1, but GTT got the Phoenix.
That's a big Phoenix to get as well. Mando Warrior regrouping with this team now, but it seems like BNB are willing to push forward. Now that if they find anyone stepping up too far, the burst is there.
They're going to look for Mollis first, but Mando gets the 2-man taunt that cuts off the follow-up damage. Very, very low scope to the point of being removed. But at this point, Baskin and the boys are out of cooldowns. No ultimates, no abilities. Can Gone to Tahiti step on the gas. Baskin taunted back in. Diesel gets the first kill. Mollis gets the second. Big dash lands on Gino for the slow, but no one's there to complete the work. But GTT may have overstepped a little bit here, and have recognized that successfully. They'll back up, head towards this red buff, towards Primal, and collect those free things off the map.
I really like the play from BNB there. They know that they're on the back foot. They have to go for these risky plays, so they move up after the Phoenix in Siege, realizing that GTT is going to be a little bit lower on health. Maybe the ultimates won't be back up. Some people are still dead. Take any engagement that you can. It doesn't quite work out just because GTT was a little bit too tanky. And ironically, they did stagger their engagement, GTT that is, because it was one person that got cut out initially, and then the rest of them started to flow in one by one, which made it a lot harder for BNB to find that AoE damage to swing the fight in their favor.
It was pretty critical. I think getting to Basket early on in the fight doesn't hurt either, or Meerkat rather, the one they were able to take very quickly at the beginning. And that's been part of the problem too. They've been kind of allowing Baskin and Meerkat to chill at the back of these dives that they're going for, which is obviously where they're going to position. But if you're not getting your priority target, you're up a bajillion gold. There's no onus on you to force it. Gone to Tahiti can be patient right now.
They can, and now Fire Giant respawning. I don't imagine that BNB really puts up a hard defense here. We might see a couple members show face, maybe even an attempt to steal, but if they take the fight in the jungle, BNB need that unofficial 6-man inside of a Phoenix. They need that assistance and damage, something to hide behind, but they won't have it if they decide to defend this fire.
Mask gets taunted in, but avoids taking too much damage. Gone to Tahiti are not quite set up to respond to the back of these taunts, but that is still good looks for GTT. The ultimate for Mask, that 9 turns blessing, is on cooldown. Meanwhile, Sops, looking around while in that stealth, will find nothing, and the Fire Giant being brought down to half. GTT are on it, and it looks like they're sticking it. Diesel and Mollis putting in damage, and Baskin and the boys can't make their way in. They're not going to contest, and GTT get the FG for free.
That's a smart call from BNB.
Okay.
They've already learned now that they can reflect just about as many Fire Giant pushes as they want to if GTT aren't going to diversify their approach. So instead of taking the very risky fight in the neutral objective, they're going to play around their own base and try and regroup and do the exact same thing that they've been doing for the last 12 minutes, which is fighting tooth and nail to defend their base. Sure, it's not the best position to be put in, but it's been working out for them. Now, left side Phoenix seems like that's where GTT are going to group up. Mid Phoenix is already down, and the minion wave is pushed up as well. But how BNB is in this deficit, I don't think they can push it up too far. They can't take it to the middle of the lane. They don't have enough safety in numbers or just general items to be willing to push up that far. They're going to have to deal with these minions coming to their base in due time.
Hey man, the next time I drop an actual limerick like GTT, get the FG for free, you gotta back me up, Myth. But I'm with you right now about BNB's defense on where they're going. And they've taken the fight all the way over to left with the Defender of Olympus that forces Uzi into the Sentinel of Zeus quickly. He gets pulled right back in by the chains, but lives through it all. Meanwhile, Mollusk being burned down by the Tycho drums, but still able to survive. He can try and sustain back up as well. Meanwhile, minions pouring in right. Mid-Phoenix still has not respawned either. Gone to Tahiti. I know they're low, but they might still have the pressure.
Mollusk being this low health, sure, he's got sustain through Fire Giant and some self-healing through Amma, but it's going to take a long time for him to get into a healthy state, willing to move into this Phoenix. As low as it is, it's going to be very easy for them to burn it if they get any opportunity.
Ozzy taunted in first, but he's been beefy. What a frontliner he's been for the squad this time, and Sops ends up falling, just kind of running right in. Gone to Tahiti are struggling to break this base, Mifflin. Is it just been that they haven't diversified their approach, or has it really just been sick defense from Baskin and the boys?
A little bit of column A, a little bit of column B, but if you're going to do the exact same thing on every single one of your Phoenix engages, I'm sure BNB have already fully adjusted to it. The last 3 fights that started with Mando Warrior dashing in, looking for a taunt, and then really just a little bit of follow-up from Mollis dashing in. Maybe Cope falls in with a blink, and BNB are always targeting out the tanks. They're always looking at Cope. They're always looking at Mollis, just trying to put them to back up, and then immediately if Sops looks to follow up, if Diesel's anywhere in range to follow up on the CC coming out from the supports, once they've done enough damage to the tanks, BNB surge forward and try and take them out as well. It's been clean defense, and every single time you've noticed that it's always Gino getting taunted. It's always Uzi, because they're the ones who are in range for it. If Mando wants to be engaging, do it on someone that it actually matters to hit with the confound. Taunt someone that will matter. Burn someone's beads. Force an ultimate. Something along those lines. All you've done so far is force a Sentinel of Zeus. Uzi will back up because he's already at his base, heal, and then re-engage the fight.
Yeah, Uzi has done an insane amount of work for Baskin and the boys. You mentioned earlier the fight where he was able to successfully establish a front line and zone out some of the damage. He's been doing it for essentially 20 minutes longer than it should have been possible, considering the game state. But it's really been a big part of what's kept Baskin and the boys in this game. Plus, if Mollusk shows up, Baskin's going to put every tick of taiko drums directly into him. It's worked every single one of these fights. Mollusk has been forced to retreat, and then after that, it seems to have gone to Tahiti or struggling to find a way to get back in there. I know Diesel and Sops have the damage, but neither of them can really get into range to blow up one of these carries, and they don't have the burst to kill Uzi or Gino quickly enough.
Seems like Moss has decided to adjust his strategy a little bit. He re-itemizes and instead goes for the Mantle of Discord for his last item. If he's going to be one of the first people in there, if he's going to get dropped low by Baskin, you might as well drop a stun field around it. So I like the strategy there. But now that BNB have all 3 Phoenixes back up, we're 32 minutes into the game. The majority of them are approaching 6th item. All of them have their relics available as well. This next Fire Giant isn't going to be nearly as easy for GTT to get. I imagine BNB are going to put up a hard defense.
Especially with it being enhanced, as you mentioned. This is now getting to the point where it's a bit scary for GTT. And remember the dominance that they started this game with. Some of those residuals are still here. You can tell in the kill column where they're up by 13. You can tell how far ahead they are still in gold. Experience irrelevant at this point, though. Everybody nearly is level 20, except for Gino. It's really just those extra bit of items or selling off some boots that are making the difference here, as Baskin and the boys are slowly starting to catch up. We said it a million times. They can afford to make a couple mistakes, but they made more than that, and BNB are right back in it.
I like what GTT is doing here. They're moving up, trying to force out any engagement just to create space for Fire Giant, but Moss might have bit off more than he can chew. Loses out on the beads, loses out on Mando Warrior's ultimate, forces Baskin's jump, but nothing really ventured, nothing really gained. Uzi's a little bit deep in the back line. That tells me that, truthfully, BNB is looking to fight this.
Yeah, he teleported to a ward way in the back, and now he's a bit isolated. Taunt does get the beads out from Mass. That is good for Gone to Tahiti, and they're going to back up. The ultimate from Meerkat's also big. That's been used to dissect these team fights, and Gone to Tahiti know it. They dash in right away, force Basket to use his beads. Dazzling offensive drops onto him. They want to get rid of the backline carries early on, and no escape is on everyone. That pulls everybody right back in. But where was the follow-up? They don't have the traditional mage to blow them all up, and Baskin somehow is still drawing breath. That should have been the perfect situation for Gone to Tahiti, and they couldn't capitalize, but they continue to barrel in right underneath the mid-Phoenix, and they burn it down quickly. Meerkat taunted in, and the follow-up's there this time. Sops pops him, and they can head right back to FG.
At this point, I need Sops to turn into Baskin. I need the Taiko drum to follow up. Ares' ultimate there should have resulted in game. That's as clean as it gets, and they pulled all the carries. It should have been it. You're absolutely right. But the follow-up wasn't there. And I think a lot of it has to do, again, with Uzi just running a complete panic through the entirety of GTT's backline.
But that's the play they needed. Sop steps up and finds Baskin with no relics. He falls early. Mask is right there behind him, and Uzi, the champion, the tower, the man mountain, will suddenly come crumbling as well as Diesel cuts him down to size. Now suddenly Gino, level 19, the only one not 20, has to find a way to defend up against 5, but there's just no way, Mifflin. That should be the game as Sop finally breaks it open.
Look, the slash line reads 31-14. We're looking at a 20,000 gold deficit, but it wasn't as easy as it should have been, especially considering the lead that they had. Yeah, why am I freaking out right now? It's because BNB could have won that game because GTT just wasn't able to break the base. And if you think you're going to get that exact same lead 2 games in a row against Baskin and the boys, yeah, that's not going to happen. You're going to have to clean that up.
They absolutely are, man. And you were right, I think. That's why I like it when you cast so honestly, that they should have been able to make 1 or 2 mistakes, and that would have been A-okay. They got right up to the line. That's how big their lead was. That 4 or 5 failed sieges in a row still were not enough for Baskin and the boys to regain any control in that game. But it shows you just what kind of tightrope you're walking up against the best of the best here in the circuit.
It really is. I imagine Baskin and the boys now know that it's going to be an early aggression strat. They might as well adjust their playstyle as if they're playing against Ghost Gaming, because that's really what GTT looked like in the early game. So what are you going to do? You can either match that aggression, or you can go for a much more passive playstyle. Maybe elect to pick up a Geb or a Kepri, mid laners that are incredibly safe, Guardians in the solo lane, just so you can drag it out into the late game safely. I imagine we're going to see a lot of changes in the picks and bans.
And remember, both of these teams are trying to get their chance to go meet Locked and Goated, who I'm sure are happy to see that the early game aggression is still working. But they're not done just yet, though. Still have to find our winner here in this best of 3. I'll get it back to the desk for their analysis.
I don't think this one quite lines up with what chat was thinking would happen here in this game. Gone to Tahiti, not without a little bit of struggles. They strike 35 minutes into game number 1 to find the 1-0 lead here in this set. Wormy, how do we get there, though? I mean, you're looking a couple minutes into this game. We figured there might be some pressure in the long lane. There sure was, but then there's also pressure in the solo lane and in the mid lane and literally all over the map. A great team performance, I think, to build this lead from Gone to Tahiti.
Yeah, on one side, Dave, we saw a team, and on the other, we saw Baskin and Uzi, and that was kind of it. I mean,
no boys.
Really put a warrant out for the boys, because it was just those two doing all of the work for them. And honestly, the fact that that game even stretched out so long is really thanks to just Uzi being the total tower, the wall, whatever Finch called it over there on the cast. He probably mitigated a ton of damage. I mean, 36,000 damage mitigated in that amount of time. But check out on the other side too, because Mando and Cope had 52 and 40,000 to their names as well. So that double Guardian frontline seemed basically impenetrable. But honestly, this is exactly what Gone to Tahiti's game plan was. Pick something so easy to execute on that you can't mess it up, even if it takes you 30-something minutes.
Yeah, I'm going to walk forward and press 4 if I'm Cope, and as long as some of their beads are down, I'm going to find some value for it, and Mollusk as well has this great lockdown. So what we talked about in this pick-ban phase, there was such high potential for beads burning really across the boards for Gone to Tahiti that if any of these big ultimate and even non-ultimate abilities, we had a pretty good conversation around how good Athena Taunt is while we were watching that game. The team fights just kept going for Gone to Tahiti. And kind of to follow that thread, Lermy, I think Athena is in a really good spot at this moment. Maybe it's what team is built around her, but I think Mando Warrior looked great out of that solo lane as well as the rest of GTT.
I mean, honestly, we were kind of talking about this before. It's just so easy for Mando there when you see him get that triple taunt. Just having the ability to pull multiple people into the damage from Sops, into the Dark Omen, followed up by literally any other ability is going to be doing a ton of damage. So if I'm Basking the boys, I don't know if I'm necessarily taking out this Athena, but I'm definitely considering it because Mando, man, he popped off on that.
Yeah, it's a total different pace from what we saw earlier in EU as well. And we figured this. I mean, it's been kind of the conversation piece between the two regions here so far this weekend. I don't know, we're knocking on the door of, 50 total kills or something like that in a 35-minute game? I mean, totally nuts coming out of North America here. Mifflin and Finch both agreed, though, there maybe needs to be some priority change and maybe gameplay style here from Baskin and the boys for game number 2. I think it's still going to be tough. One thing we've talked about, and maybe we'll have to look at more as we move into picks and bans in just a moment, is where this Ganesh ban still falls. That's one thing Gino's been very comfortable on. Still maybe haven't found the perfect support to fill in for that. Is there anything that immediately comes to mind that you want to see out of Baskin and the boys here for game number 2?
I mean, they have to keep the priority on getting this Nike back in Uzi's hands because it really was the difference maker. That game could have been done in 15 minutes, but the fact that Uzi was there to make them spread out, to force the backline of Gone to Tahiti to really consider if they could walk past this impenetrable wall, that was the big deal here. But like you said, back to Gino, he really needs to play something with a little more pressure. I love Tara as a character. She does a great job in team fights. But if you're not able to get pressure, I mean, you're also ruining the lane for Meerkat. So there's the issue there as well. And probably picking something with at least a little more early game. Honestly, if I'm them, I'm going for something like a Kepri and going the hyper-defensive route like Mifflin suggested.
There's a lot to look at here for Baskin and the boys for picks and bans for game number 2. Now, the emphasis the emphasis rather for Baskin and the boys, I think there's multiple ways that you can start to look at this. GTT in the second pick slot here. Again, remember it was that first overall ban Ganesh that we kind of hashed out on a God-specific level, but more so directly against Baskin and the boys. You see that, a 33% ban rate specifically against Gino here on this one. Heimdall going to get taken away by Baskin and the boys. Not at all surprising to see him off the table. And then, hey, the Ganesh immediately to follow. Do you think we talked a little bit about the Nike? Is that almost worth banning out here if you're Gone to Tahiti?
Absolutely. I just don't want it to go back into Uzi's hands. I mean, even though they lost that game, we've said this over and over again, that is the only real reason that they were able to stick it out for so long, is the fact that the Nike made the comp have to spread out and made them have to think a little bit more, because really that's Baby's first comp. Athena taunt into some damage, right? So being able to make it more complicated by throwing the Nike into the mix, that big slow and area damage really helped to mess it up. But instead they're going to go for the Persephone. They still have got one more ban though, so I'm really hoping that they get rid of this Nike.
Yes, this is an uncharacteristically bad game from Baskin and the boys. So, you know, there's lots to look at. I think some takeaways from that game, to be sure. But the priority still needs to be in a similar spot. You got to mitigate the same people on Baskin and the boys. Just because they had, you know, maybe a rough go of things in game 1 certainly doesn't change. We even put out a missing persons report for the boys because Baskin was so strong. Uzi there as well. So I think taking some good away from the priority picks there, still smart from GTT. It is Nike left open. Gino draws another couple of bans, or really one more outside of the initial Ganesh. Yamoja taken away. You wanted to see some early pressure. Yamoja can certainly provide that. Won't be, though, for Gino here in this game as the Nike is taken first overall. And I think smart by Baskin and the boys. Take that Morrigan off the table. Amaterasu certainly caused some trouble in game 1, so why not head back to it here for game 2?
This has been Mollusk's signature pick throughout the whole tournament, really, and he feels very strongly about this one, and I can see why. They're getting a ton of wins off this pick that we never even expected them to. I think just overall, SOC teams have been performing way out of any expectation that they could have possibly had. I mean, they're one game away from ending up in the grand final of the tournament, and if Mollusk says, lock me Amaterasu one more time, you do it. Yeah,
I think you do, and this is a continued positive impressions from this GTT squad here this weekend. Yeah, SOC. You did not misspeak there. This is the SOC squad that is one game away from knocking Baskin and the boys out of this tournament. Hachiman, second overall pick here for Baskin and the boys. Some good damage and also relative safety for that Hunter out of the long lane. Might be important given what we saw there in game number 1, so I think a strong couple picks here for Baskin and the boys, and then give him something that he can perform on. Scylla, certainly that.
Yeah, I think Scylla has been in a pretty good spot so far, and we've seen her a lot more than I thought we would this tournament, but clearly there's a reason why. Crush and Sikkim are just two incredibly amazing abilities by themselves, and that's not even to mention the objective secure and resets coming out of I'm a Monster. A totally insane character overall, and Baskin doesn't even need setups to hit those, so having that mechanical ability on your side, pick him Scylla all the time. I don't even care at that point.
Agreed, and he doesn't need them, but he has a little bit of it through the Nike already, and I guess conditional Hachiman stuns, but that's sort of besides the point, I suppose, for this Scylla. A mid laner still needed here for GTT. As such, the new Wob will get taken away on the back end of the Morrigan ban in that first round of bans. Sobek locked in here. Another Sobek look here so far in this tournament. Kumbhakarna and Robin both taken away by Gone to Tahiti. Do you like what you saw enough from Sobek so far this weekend that gives you confidence for Gauntlet Tahiti moving form here at their third overall pick?
I think it can work. If I'm gone to Tahiti, I'm probably going for the Discordia now that both Raijin and Nuance are off the table. Merlin's also available, but I think that having the ability to toss an apple straight at a target coming at you through the pluck is really good. And there it is, just like I said. I mean, it's easy as that. When you've got the apple and you've got a free target, by all means take it. And that's exactly what they're going to do. So right now, just looking at their comp, they've got an insane one so far, and all they really need is to decide where exactly this Sobek and Ama are going.
Agreed. It's such a similar mindset maybe from what they had in game number 1. Obviously not the automatic, big play taunts, things like that just yet. There's no Athena locked in, of course. But with the Amaterasu, the Uller, there's some lockdown there. Sobek Pluck, of course, ever so important. Discordia Apple, great for these big CC team fights. I think Gauntlet Tahiti have their feet under them here. Certainly not nervous playing against this Baskin and the boys team. Now, on the flip side of things, you figured you might want to see a Khepri for Gino, and that will be what is locked in here for game number 2. The final draft, though, Nike, Hachiman, Scylla, Thor, and Khepri. Maybe your thoughts on both the supports here, because Geb certainly raised your eyebrows.
Geb's going to Mando. That's just it. We saw it happen yesterday. It's going straight back to Mando. He's going into a losing matchup, per se, because Geb really has no way to stop the Rend coming out from Nike. But even still, we saw yesterday, he went up against a Kukulkan as a Geb and won lane.
That's true. What? It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. It'll be certainly interesting. The Geb Sobek, kind of the double Guardian composition once more here for Gauntlet Tahiti. 1 game away from knocking Baskin and the boys out of the tournament. Can they do it? Finch and Mifflin will let us know.
A sentence I never thought I'd get to hear Dolson say, but he's absolutely right. Gone to Tahiti are on the precipice of knocking out Baskin and the boys. With Baskin on the squad, it's hard to believe, but that's where we're at. But I don't think they're going to get to do it the same way here this time, Miff. A lot safer is the draft from Baskin and the boys, and I don't think Gauntlet Tahiti can just run it down the same way.
Yeah, I would say infinitely safer. Meerkat, yeah, he's not worried about anything now. He's got a horse. Gino's going to revive him. Mast doesn't have to commit his entire body to an engagement. He can just land with a dunk, hammer out if he doesn't think it's going to go well. That said, GTT bring a lot of the same tools. They're bringing that aggression. Mollis reprising the Amaterasu jungle, stops on a very aggressive mid laner inside of Discordia, and I don't really need to go into what makes Uller and Sobek together such a threat in lane. But what is a question mark to me for GTT's comp is this Geb solo. If you're going to bring so much aggression across the board, this Geb solo means to me that GTT is willing to completely cede the short lane.
That's what it seems like. Just no world where Geb is going to find any pressure over the Nike. That's a non-starter, but obviously not why you're picking that Geb. It gives you perhaps just the best late-game Guardian there is when he's able to rotate out and likely be ahead of where a Guardian would normally be because he's getting some of that solo lane farm. So obviously in the ideal world, it makes a ton of sense, but that's only if you can get there and if Baskin and the boys don't put you under too much pressure beforehand.
Yeah, this Geb as well, if he rotates out, some of the struggle we saw from GTT last game around those Phoenixes is they didn't really have any great way to engage. The Athena wasn't able to find those multi-man taunts or even on the priority targets. Geb's going to blink in and throw up a giant circular stun field into a huge cone knockup. If you can't engage with that, I don't know. I'm not sure what you're going to be able to engage with, so maybe that's why we're starting to see this Geb in the solo lane for Mando Warrior. Whereas Cope on this Sobek can fully alleviate himself towards peeling out the back line. You can still rely on a Geb shield to come out from a range, and you just completely have Sobek there to make sure that Sops is able to get off to a good start.
Gino has been plucked back, so let's see how much damage Diesel has. Hail of Arrow and Bladed Arrow is close, but Shell ends up being enough to keep Gino alive despite this pressure over here in the long lane. But you can already tell the pace of this game number 2 is much more favorable for Baskin and the boys than the pace from game number 1, where they were under constant aggression from Gauntlet Tahiti. No room to breathe for us or for them. And this time it looks like things will be moving at a much more normal pace.
But Khepri's got to be worried if he wants to stick around in that low health bar. We've seen already that 80% of your health is within burst range for that level 3 Uller. And Sobek decided to go for Blink. A little bit more selfish in the Relic column, but he's going to have fantastic engage potential. I'm excited to see always the junglers, and especially when you have Thor on your team, B&B. Mast is going to be a fantastic pace setter. He's going to be engaging just about every single fight for B&B going forward. And if GTT keep up this very deep pressure on the long lane, they have to be worried about that global presence that Thor has the second he takes over to 5.
Yeah, every time Thor uses Anvil of Dawn, I'm going to say out loud, Nemesis can't do that. Well, I've been saying so much to her, man. I don't know. That's what's gonna come out of in my heart at least, but might not actually make it onto this very same broadcast. But you're right. I think this time we should be seeing Mask be able to be much more of that pace setter as opposed to what we saw from Mollusk back in game number 1, where he was the one in control of where all the fights happen. So that really a lot of it is on his plate, and it's hard to think of a better jungler to have that much on his plate with that storied background that Mask has. We know that he can step up when they need him. He's hanging out in the Gold Fury pit. Thought we might see a Thor ult come out, but he thought better of it and walked elsewhere.
It seems like GTT is pretty aware now that there is the threat of a Thor in the jungle, but he's going to go up anyway.
He absolutely is considering a dunk, and Mollusk looks to be his target, but I don't know if Mollusk saw it coming or not, but gives him a little bit of a fake out, and Mask ends up hitting Casper. That is crisis averted for GTT. That first Thor ultimate is always such a worrying thing. Where is that going to go? Is he just going to find pressure for free?
Yeah, if he lands a dunk on anyone at that point, had he even just hit Mollusk being level 4, that would have been first blood. Mollusk spending a lot of time hovering around the jungle, but not a lot of time farming.
But now he's looking for a chance to perhaps farm the duo lane. Gino in trouble, but what an EI Jutsu stun from Meerkat. Not going to be enough to save Gino's life as first blood goes to Tahiti, but Baskin shows up with the I'm a Monster over the wall, gets the return kill, and is able to find the Sycama double for Baskin on the Scylla to start things off.
Alright, so last game I wasn't sure it really was Baskin and the boys, but it seems like we're back into full swing. Fantastic counter rotation from Baskin to find the unassisted I'm a Monster over the wall, jumps in afterward and gets the return kill there as well. And now you're looking at Baskin from ahead on a god that can absolutely carry a game, and he's feeling confident, you can tell.
Wow, Sops does a great job to avoid that. Find the two-man strife and the ultimate on the Mask. No kill potential there, but he was in a ton of trouble. But Sops somehow avoids having to use the beads or giving up his life. So well played there by him. And I do want to go back to that last engagement for just a moment, Myth, because I feel like if they get that kill a little bit quicker onto Gino, then it's way harder for Baskin to come over and find that double kill if they had been able to maybe get that silence sooner and stop for repositioning, or just a couple things that were a little bit off the mark with it.
And Gino played it perfectly to buy the time. Instead of rotating into his tower, which would have been a lot more risky, he sits inside of his wave and allows Meerkat to return a ton of damage, making it a lot harder for the entirety of GTT to commit to that fight. These guys are playing well. They've turned it around from last game. The gold deficit's now for the first time today in favor of B&B, if ever so slightly, and the teams are looking completely even. I'm really excited to see where Mask goes now. He's got his ultimate back up, and it's really on him to keep setting the pace.
Mollusk forced into using the Dazzling Offensive, but still gets caught by Mast. I'm a Monster comes crashing in, and Baskin with a killing spree. That's all 3 kills for B&B that belong to the namesake for the roster in the mid lane. And this is what Baskin can do. I was about to say this is what Scylla can do, but that is Baskin's special, rotating over to the duo lane early on and getting a double.
Yeah, you don't think of early pressure when you think of Scylla. You don't think of the ability to push out a lane, rotate over, and find ganks, because Scylla is a guy that really needs to get those levels in her abilities. She doesn't even fully clear a wave until level 6 or 7. She's got to really get that farm going, and these kills, that's one way to do it. 3 of them now for Baskin. This lead is pretty small, nonetheless, only 1 level up over Sops, but the aggression that they've been putting forth, the pace that they've been setting, is going to be very detrimental for GTT. They have got so much aggression in their draft outside of this gap that you really would have expected, and I'm sure they would have expected, to be at least steering the pace a little bit.
Yeah, and I would describe it as a relative lead. Remember how much Gone to Tahiti struggled last game, even when they were up like 10, 12,000 gold. So if they make it into that same stage of the game, but it's even, you've got to feel like that skews things a bit towards Baskin and the boys with how well they performed last game, even from behind. So I think you're kind of right to point out that even though the lead's not that much, you feel as though maybe that main win condition for Gone to Tahiti around that early pressure might still be starting to evaporate already. But if you're drafting a Geb, you're not looking to run the game early, as Mando Warrior's in some trouble. Mass immunes the Cataclysm with that wall, and is able to get in front of the one by teleporting to the hammer. Mask has played this gank perfectly, and they should be able to get the kill in the Mando, even through the Geb shield on the back of great Thor play.
Look, if that didn't get them the kill, I'm tilted. And I'm sure Mass would have been tilted as well because that was phenomenal. The second he used the wall, he knew that the only way to stop the rollout, because Uzi engaged the fight with his jump, was to teleport in front of it, and he just does it perfectly.
Meerkat's been pulled back in. Beads are already down. He doesn't get the stun off the EI Jutsu, but Gino is Kepri. That means a second life for Meerkat and a second chance to get atop of the horse. Able to make it back underneath the tier 2 tower. And this is the difference in the drafting phase, Mifflin. No way that Ho Yi survives that without a Kepri and a horse to help.
And just split-second decision-making from Gino there to dash into the jungle for the most safe pathing to make sure the revive gets him out. Clean play.
And Cope's in some trouble now, goes a bit awry there with that Sobek play, gets punished by Mass, but Mass dies on the return of that. And solo, or support rather, for jungle, that's a trade you're happy to make every day of the week, so gone to Tahiti can't feel too bad.
Look where Geb is right now. That's not something I'm expecting to see, a Geb invading a speed buff on his own, and it seems like no one's really aware of it. Yeah, Mask is going to be upset. I would drop a ward on that speed just so I could watch Mask get upset when he turns the corner, because no one could do anything about it. Uzi does the best that he can to create pressure on the map by rotating in a mid. Geb says, well, I'm Geb in the early game. I don't really do much in a team fight just yet, so I'm going to see what I can do to strip away the farm. Yeah, look at Mask. He's not happy about it.
Yeah, that was about the only way that Geb can find some early game value for his team, which is knowing that Uzi on a Nike, who's much more relevant right now, is off getting value somewhere else. He can at least try to look for an invade. And it's the kind of thing that if he were on something like a King Arthur or even a more traditional solo lane pick, he'd be doing all the time. It's just that on a Geb, it looks a bit funny. So Cope placing down some aggressive wards in the jungle. They're definitely looking to try and put down some dual lane pressure, but the axe from Diesel is off the mark. And of course, Baskin is also here, level 11 and ready to play, but gone to Tahiti, give up on him.
I really want to see BNB continue making these aggressive plays and leverage the fact that they have an actual solo laner, someone who can rotate out before level 20 and be largely impactful in these fights. If Uzi goes to Gold Fury around level 12 with the entirety of his team and GTT bring all 5 members, it should still go the way of BNB wholeheartedly. They've got the engage potential through the Thor. They've got Uzi to disrupt the backline. Baskin's off to a fantastic start, has already hit level 12. They should be looking for fights anywhere and everywhere.
Gino has been charged, prayed back in. Dazzling Offensive will be used to pop that Scarab's Blessing, and now that he's stuck inside the Lurking in the Waters, there should be no way for Gino to escape, but they didn't have the damage, and way in the back, they've got trouble for Sops. A turnaround Play-Doh on a mask to blow him up. Meerkat gets on top of the horse to escape, as Mollusk lives with 2 HP, so Uzi now trying to make his way in to collect some kills, but that won't work. Baskin uses his ultimate to disengage, and somehow gone to Tahiti are winning this fight.
And now Baskin's completely Sop's gonna fall to the tower instead of losing his life to Uzi. That's clean play as well. With those TKOs, GTT can continue to look for the pressure, but Cope seems to be under pressure himself.
Gets a Geb shield from Mando Warrior, but a Nike and a Geb this early are not the same thing. Baskin comes out on top with an extra kill there towards the end by taking down Cope. And even on that tightrope that GTT were walking, where it looked like they narrowly came out on top, that fight ends up favoring Baskin the boys. Meerkat using beads, though, just off the sound of the axe, even though it missed, and it ends up causing him his life.
That's tough. He played it as safe as he possibly could. He didn't even wait to see for 0.1 seconds if the axe was going to stun. He uses out the beads and still loses his life. We'll call it played it perfect, gets punished anyway. And that's a feels bad. Meerkat's going to be on an 8-second respawn. GTT can use this time to group up around the Gold Fury, get the defensive positioning, and force BNB to rotate in.
Defensive positioning is one thing. They're ready to start this one up. On the way in is Gino. We have seen Guardian steal with less, but it's a big ask, I think, for Gino to grab this one all on his own. I'm a Monster is available as Ascilla makes her way in. They nearly take it into range as Manda Warrior ends up too low. The Geb falls first. Over the wall comes the Crush, and Diesel drops as well. This fight for Baskin the boys has somehow been excellent. It's now Subs gets popped as well. The Crush is too strong. Mass does end up falling over to the left, but this fight so far entirely favoring Baskin and the boys.
Baskin is a fully bolt-action rifle at this point. Crush is taking out 60% of anyone's health bar. Any CC that sets him up is going to be detrimental. Maulus now the only one really in range to defend. Cope as well, but what can they really do? Neither one of them can out-confirm the Scylla.
So Gold Fear being pulled by Baskin of the boys. Mollusk and Cope considering coming in to try and contest. They can at least make it cost some lives. Gino gets pulled back in. Tahiti steal away the Gold Fury, but they does end up costing them Cope's life, but still taking away the objective keeps them in this game.
I guess I just speak lies. That's a clean play. I wish I caught what stole it away, but that's really unlucky for BNB and a sloppy play for the confirm, which turns what was a pretty commanding early game lead in favor of the boys in blue into a completely even game again. We're looking at about 500 gold. XP is the only thing really differentiating these squads, and the majority of it's going to be on that mid laner. Baskin is 2 levels up still, so they could continue to fight around him, and they absolutely should, or BNB could go back to farming.
That looks to be the play, at least for now, to try and reset this map a little bit and start to farm. Looks like Mollusk is on the Pyromancer, and that's the case. Meanwhile, Mando being dove over in the solo lane, beads from Mass to allow him to continue to pursue the kill, but I think the rollout might have done enough. Meanwhile, Pyromancer does go down to Tahiti. That was started up by Mollusk ages ago. Cope finishes it off, but Baskin continues to delete people with Crush. It's just too much damage, as I'm a Monster connects as well. He just doesn't miss.
Baskin's pathing there was so smart. He was thinking about going low to meet up with the rest of his team and instead decides to cut off the escape path for Cope there. Now that's just clean play all around. I'm glad that we get to see this replay. Let's really get an eye for what it was, because that Crush, even there, should have been able to confirm it.
Yeah, it still wasn't enough. I mean, even Uzi used Sentinel of Zeus. Pretty impressive they don't get it, as Diesel is in some trouble. If you end up having to stand still for half a second, you are going to fall to Crush. This is what I mean about Scylla's value becoming a little bit more consistent. Baskin is showing that Sikkim and Crush are plenty on their own.
Yeah, Baskin's playing the most run-and-gun Scylla gameplay style that I think I've ever seen. He doesn't let go of W, he doesn't stop throwing out crushies, he's continually just using his dash to maneuver around the map, almost unafraid of any of the damage that's come through from GTT, and I think that's due in large part to the fact that Mollusk really hasn't been a determining factor in these engagements.
No, he hasn't really been able to do much for them at all, as Uzi has a Sentinel of Zeus forced out. Mando pushes Uzi away and uses the Cataclysm. Doesn't quite work there, and they end up having a bunch of ultimates on cooldown for not much return of value. But this has gone almost exactly as you said, been very much controlled by Baskin. I mean, think back to the double kill he got back at the beginning of the game. That was first blood for Gone to Tahiti, but for some reason the mid laner was there. I was able to flip it back in the Order team's favor.
Yeah, I'd almost forgotten about those 2 kills, because he's gotten 5 since then, 15 minutes into the game. 7-0, undying. It's been clean play, and really, the standouts to me this match for BNB have continually been Baskin and Uzi. Uzi's been creating fantastic space. He's been able to dive the backline, find all the damage that he needs. Sops has been having a very hard time operating, and if Uzi drops anyone low, you know that Baskin's going to pick him off easily.
He's been following up all game long. No reason to think he wouldn't continue to do so, as Baskin and the boys, with Pyromancer and the Fury down, now looking towards a red buff for aggression. The buff itself is down, so Mask dumps on Mollusk, doesn't find anything there, and they have to disengage again. But it gets the beads out from Mollusk, so should be plenty worth it, at least in their minds.
Right now, BNB are just looking to take away any little bit that they can. They're keeping the pace up. They're trying to match what GTT was doing last game.
Yeah, if you're wondering why Diesel's so low, that's because he caught the hands from Baskin. I'm a Monster only hits onto Cope, so for a moment, they don't have to worry about the rampage that is Scylla. I misspoke. Baskin kills everyone that is within his visual range. Uzi takes care of Sops as well, getting the second kill of this engagement. They're not slowing down. Mask with the wall locks down Mando Warrior, and even more damage from Baskin, but they don't have enough to complete the kill. But they can go wherever they'd like to on the map. At this point, they control it with all this damage from the middle lane.
Finch, crazy idea, bad pitch. Let's stop talking about every time Baskin lands something amazing, because I think he's not missed. You're right to point it out. He hasn't missed. It would be more interesting to point that out when it happens, and I don't think we'll even get the chance this game. This play from BNB, they're just bullying the backlines. They're trying to find any sort of purchase in the enemy jungle, knowing that even if they do lose out on an engagement, since there's no gold free available, Pyromancer's down as well. It's so early in the game and GTT is slightly behind. They couldn't look towards Fire Giant either. There's no opportunity cost. If BNB do lose out on an engagement, the worst case is they just spend the next 30 seconds respawning while GTT clear out some waves.
this is trouble for Diesel. He knows he's out of options. He's been rooted, and Meerkat gets the kill. Cool guys don't look at explosions as Gino trusts his hunter to finish up the job. And what great timing as Gone to Tahiti go to FG, but this is right as the Fury spawns, but B&B are not going to be baited. They take right to the sky with Mask, and Gone to Tahiti have to drop it. I love the call, considering the timing with action and left and the Fury coming up, but Baskin and the boys just too aware.
Yeah, that is the most SCL call I've ever seen. Mollis taking one straight out of Xbox's book, and it would have worked out had Mask not been so heads up on it. The entirety of B&B was actually rotating over. GTT are lucky that they got caught out that quickly. Had they dropped it any lower, they would have been stuck there committing to the Fire Giant. Now they're just going to lose out on Diesel's life, a Primal Fury, maybe another tower. B&B look like they want to take the red buff as well.
That's a good point. Baskin and the boys were so aware of that play that you might even be able to call it a small misplay that they don't let Tahiti commit to it further. Could have gotten more kills off it, but jokes aside, they've been playing this game excellent here so far. And it really, to me, the big difference is just that Mollusk has not been able to dictate the pace of this game the same way that he was back in game number 1. 2, 3, and 1, certainly not an abysmal slash line, but when you consider how little he's been able to determine where the fights are happening or getting his lane opponents ahead, he's basically just been kind of reacting to Baskin and the boys.
I want to say that he's been giving nearly equivalent value that Mass has been. It's just that Baskin's an utter menace. Example A right here, complete menace. Blows up Mando Warrior. He's going to be dead for the next 40 seconds. 2 members on left. This could be fire.
I don't see a reason why they shouldn't start it up. Frenzy popped as well, and Mask goes up to be a free ward for the team. Comes dunking back down, doesn't find a whole lot there, but he'd rather be down here where he can prevent Cope from coming in than up in the sky. Fire Giant goes to Baskin and the boys. Meanwhile, Gone to Tahiti are going to force down that tier 2 tower and left. They at least got something for it, because I don't think there's a world where they stopped that Fire Giant.
That's about as good as they could have hoped for. It looked like they were thinking about going for the Phoenix, but Cope wasn't feeling safe enough to stop any of the backs. Instead, they split off into the jungle, go back to base, see what they can strip away. Luckily, they get a red buff, which is about as good as you could hope for. But now, B&B, 5 members strong with Fire Giant and a lead. Sobek ult forced out early. There's still 4 towers left on the map. That's a lot of just passive gold waiting around to be collected by B&B.
They're going to come collect as well. I can't think of why they'd slow down now. They've been relentless with this pace. Really, Baskin has, as Cope gets grabbed back in by the Abduct. Crushes there for 629, and Cope has no chance of surviving when Baskin gets that last hit for the kill. Now 9-0-6, a part of 15 of the 18 kills that B&B have, and they are indeed now burning down these objectives. Meerkat working in left, but the rest of the boys don't even need them. They're going to move right into the middle Phoenix, even without their hunter. Big Cataclysm comes out from Mando. That does bring Gino down low as Mando where he gets that kill onto Gino. Mollis gets one to Mass, so maybe not the best fight for Baskin and the boys, but Baskin gets the ultimate over the wall into Mollis anyway. It looks for another one with that last bit of the charge, but B&B are fully retreating.
Mollusk rather was on 80% health when I'm a Monster sent him to the Shadow Realm. That's insane. He can't feel safe doing anything going forward. And it's interesting to point out, Mollusk went for a slightly tankier build last game. We saw the Shoguns come out. He got the Mantle of Discord. And instead this game, he's going fully glass cannon, which I can agree with. When you're this far behind, you have to do something crazy. You have to go for these lucky plays, and no better way to find luck than the RNG that is crit. He's got 2 stacks on the Rage, likely going to be moving to the Deathbringer next. If he is able to make contact with Baskin ever, 2 lucky crits might be all it takes to stop this menace.
They're going to need some kind of help because they have not been able to bring Baskin down any other way through normal means up until now. One bright spot for them is that what kind of became a Phoenix Siege didn't quite work for Baskin and the boys. I don't know if you can quite chalk that up as good defense so much as maybe a little bit of an over-aggressive siege, but either way, Gone to Tahiti have repelled Baskin and the boys for now.
It seems like they're just going to keep biding their time. Still 3 members with Fire Giant for another minute and a half. That tier 2 tower on right should go down in that time. I don't imagine we see B&B really look for another Phoenix invade, barring maybe a pick on this tier 2 tower or pick around the Phoenix that opens up the gates to it. Short of that, they're probably just going to spend the gold, back up, get ready for the next Fire Giant. And GTT really don't have any way to stick around for it. They don't want to defend around that fire. They need that assistance because the gold lead at 22 minutes in, nearly 10,000, that's hugely impactful. Now BNB find themselves in a similar situation as GTT last game, where they're allowed to make a couple mistakes if they choose.
But I don't expect them to make many more. Ozzy goes in with the Sentinel of Zeus. That forces Sops out right away. Frenzy popped by Baskin the Boys as the right side Phoenix has been brought down low. But Cataclysm gets the beads out from Meerkat. I'm a Monster hits nothing, but the right side Phoenix comes down either way. Mass ducks down into Cope, but he was already lurking in the waters. As Gaunt's Tahiti having a decent fight, right up until Baskin gets involved. That's the immortal for the mid laner for Baskin the Boys. Mando and Cope gotta take a seat as B&B considering pushing for the end, but they think better of it. Still have a little bit of work to do before they're ready to bring this one to a close.
Look, Baskin's at 22,000 damage. Next highest 13,000. That's insane.
What?
You were right to point out that it's not Scylla. That's Baskin.
Right, that is just purely the Baskin differential, and Sops don't take it hard because everyone struggles when they're up against Baskin. No reason to be ashamed there. Mid-Phoenix will come crumbling down as well. No one from GTT is in position to defend, and this is the clean siege we did not see from Gaunt Tahiti last game, and they had a lead nearly twice as big coming into it, but Baskin the Boys are playing cleanly. They're forcing GTT to overcommit, and as soon as they get that opening, they're taking Phoenix's in lead.
And it's not even like they're playing risky on these sieges. Baskin doesn't take a single bit of damage because he's playing behind the entirety of his team. No one else dealt really any major damage on that siege. It was 100% Baskin, but they have range setup. Gino throws out the root from range, followed up by a crush. Mass throws out the wall, followed up by a crush. And he's taken out 50%, 60% of every health bar he comes in contact with, and then they start to work their way into the Phoenixes. If GTT dropped an ultimate, BNB backed up. That's how you played these sieges incredibly safely, and that's why BNB took no losses in order to get 2 free Phoenixes.
It's been impressive from them so far. And one more thing to remember is that one of Scylla's strengths is that ability to get a little bit of extra damage out on these tanks. She can be a tank buster in that way, and I think on those sieges that works well, because if Baskin and the Boys lock down Cope or Mando, well, Baskin and the Boys will just kill them. Last game, when Mando was taunting all the tanks, Ussie was laughing through it. That's been a big difference maker in these 2 games so far as well, is the relative ability for the backline to blow up the tanks when they're the ones that get controlled.
And not only the tanks, but the structures as well. We see that Baskin decides to go for the Polynomicon build on Scylla.
Yeah.
If he throws out an ability, touches a Phoenix, well, that's 20% of a Phoenix gone. Do it again 3 seconds later, that's another 20%. Or, heaven forbid, he touches anyone with Sikkim, follows up with the just Poly auto attack. That might be enough to put any of the carries down on GTT as well. 2 Phoenixes down. Now BNB have only really one place to go, which is the left side Phoenix. And the 5-man siege defense from GTT isn't terrible. Discordia has a very easy job keeping the minions out. Mando Warrior can pretty low commitment find an engagement inside the Phoenix for his team with that ultimate. And Diesel can play pretty far back on this Uller with his ability-focused build. That said, Mollusk with this crit build, he's got no defense available. If he wants to find his way towards Baskin, good luck. There's 4 members standing between you and him.
Yeah, it actually does not matter which person on Gaunt to Tahiti that Baskin hits, they will all die. Cope is a perfect example. I believe that was only Sikkim that did all that damage, but Mollusk wants to get rid of Baskin. Good work to avoid the Alma Monster. Huge play from the Gaunt to Tahiti jungler, but can his team capitalize? So far, the answer is no. Mando Warrior locks down Mask underneath the Phoenix, but he's able to reposition. If Mollusk trades his life for Baskin, his team has to collect.
They absolutely do, and Mollusk plays that perfectly. Blinks past the engagement from BNB, finds 2 crits. That's all you need with that build.
And it ended up working. Can they keep the left side Phoenix standing, though? Right now, Baskin and the Boys don't have an answer. Cope flips Meerkat back towards the rest of the team, but Meerkat uses the ultimate to get out of there. Now they want to lock down the Sobek, but he's able to get back to the squad. Uzzy finally gets the kill onto the support, but it cost Mask his life. Uzzy falls too. All of this is Mollusk, who got back there to take care of Baskin and set this fight up. Now Meerkat needs to step up, but Diesel's there. Axe point blank overpowers with the double kill, and Gino falls as well. Decisive for GTT, but look at the Titan, it's down to half, and minions continue to pour in.
But they got that right side Phoenix up. Someone needs to rotate over and stop that fire being wave. It looks like it's going to be Sops. Left side Phoenix is maintained as well, and the mid should come up here. That's perfect timing for GTT to win an engagement. Now, B&B are going to have to re-siege the entirety of the base, but there's really not much GTT can do besides that. Just lick their wounds, collect themselves, refocus their base, and pray that the Titan heals up in time by the time the next siege starts. Fire Giant's not going to respawn for another 2 full minutes. Means that B&B really could just spin their wheels for a while, maybe look for a pick in the jungle, which Baskin completely alone is willing to do.
He's absolutely doing it. But that's just a big-time play from Mollis, man. I don't think we can hype it up enough to recognize they need to get rid of...
Oh!
Yep.
Yeah, I'd be quiet there, too, because Diesel can't talk when he's dead. Baskin,
there's just
no respect! He's
There's
alone in the enemy jungle, and he just does it, and he's still there doing it. He burned through an entire Geb shield. It took 10% of his health bar as well. You're alone, Baskin. Go away.
Give me time to gas Mollis. He earned it. Point-blank use of the ultimate here has allowed for Sops to survive where everyone else has fallen. Mass dunks down with the ultimate, finds very little. Uzi continues to frontline and look to keep Mando in range, but he gets peeled off by Sops. But I don't think Baskin and the boys want to slow down at all. Mollis, though, has the pathing to the backline, goes right for Baskin with the silence, gets the crits, but the Sentinel allows for him to make it back out of there. But Mollis knows his mission, get to Baskin and take him out.
And it was a pretty clear-cut mission as well. That's only, what, the dash and one auto attack on Baskin? That's the thin thread this Scylla has to continue to walk. He's incredibly squishy. This glass cannon is going to blow people up, but it can be done to him just as easily. Mollis nearly loses life just because Mass makes a heads-up play with the wall to make sure that he gets out alive. But still, clean play from GTT. Baskin starts off that entire fight by immediately removing the player Diesel from the game, and still GTT was able to defend that Phoenix. I know they didn't have Fire Giant, B&B that is, but still, it's not going to be easy to fight into this deficit 5 versus 4. I don't imagine we see GTT really put up a hard defense around this Fire Giant, but they might have to if they don't want to deal with that clean siege from Baskin and the boys again.
And I think it's worth talking about one of Scylla's weaknesses, which is that while she's in I'm a Monster, I know she's faster and she's CC immune, but it is a bit of a time for vulnerability. Baskin died to Mollis with both relics up, if I'm not mistaken, because you can't really do anything like that while you're inside that ultimate. It's basically just trying to find a place to hit that damage. When Mollis dodged it and got the kill before Baskin getting all those relics off, he made a big individual play, but now it's Fire Giant time. You said Tahiti might not make a strong defense, but they're showing up a little bit. Mollis has already been pushed out, but Baskin and the boys are dropping the objective. They want the fight instead. Mass dunks down on the Mollis. Geb shield keeps him alive, but Uzi completes the work done by his partner. Mollis removed. Fire Giant claimed, and B&B are ready to siege.
That's the risk that Mollusk runs going this complete glass cannon build. Rage, Deathbringer, Wind Demon, a couple katanas. It means if anyone touches you first, you're gonna die. Thorult, that's gonna be enough. Uzi cleans it up with his own. But still, 4 members strong on GTT and all ultimates available.
Baskin and the boys know this is their best opportunity. Mollis, the assassin, cannot get to Baskin, so he's back to free casting. Mass goes over to Sops, brings him down low. Gino with the abduct nearly gets him killed. The Geb shield keeps Sops alive as the autos from Meerkat can't quite hit home, but luckily Baskin rarely misses. Sops ends up going down. Right side Phoenix is fallen as well, and B&B about to push into the Titan.
The fear in Diesel's heart there was on full display. He was full health in his own fountain, and he still had to Aegis the I'm a Monster from Baskin. And I can't blame him. I can't say whether or not that it would have killed him outright, but I'm not willing to run that risk, and neither should Diesel. But still, the base is wide open.
Cope does find a good charge prey into Meerkat, but the beads allows him to immune, and Uzi goes right to the backline and drops the Sentinel. Azu's Mask has the Anvil of Dawn again, doesn't really find much, but at this point, do they need it? All the damage is coming from Baskin, uses the relics to stay alive from the pressure come from the backlines. The Titan starts to fall, gone to Tahiti, couldn't stand the heat, and Baskin and the boys tie things up.
Look, I know I said last game it wasn't going to be as easy to get that early game lead, but I didn't expect it to be fully transitioned in B&B's favor. I think GTT should just go with a completely new draft. You can't keep reprising these same tools. B&B, they've seen it now. They've seen your moves. They've mastered them themselves. Go with something new. Don't bring this Amaterasu back into the jungle because it doesn't work. We've seen now that when he falls that far behind, he has to go this glass cannon build, and he gets absolutely one-tapped by the Thor. I would imagine Moss maybe even goes towards the Thor himself. He has one in that back pocket. He might even look towards the Robin, but ignoring Baskin, that's not going to be the strategy in Game 3.
I like all that, Mifflin, but I think you should draft a solo laner too. That would not hurt. And Mando Warrior didn't get to do much that game. We'll see what the idea is for them, though, in game number 3 as we get it back over to the desk to break it down.
Yeah, didn't get to do much at all there, Finch. Certainly not an understatement, as Baskin and the boys, in similar fashion to game 1, bounce back and tie up this set. There's some Gone to Tahiti fans at home, of course, watching this one. Michaela on Twitter, her mom was even tuning into this one. She says, somebody needs to crush Baskin. That's at BossyB on Twitter. Unfortunately for Mama here in this case, Baskin was the one doing most of the crushing there in game number 2. But Gone to Tahiti certainly has some fans at its back, hoping for the best here in game number 3. Lermy Wormy with me to break down game 2, though. In Lermy, again, similar to what we saw in game 1, the roles just kind of reversed here, and instead of kind of hinging it on an entire team, Baskin just kind of runs away with the game.
Game number 1, Baskin puts out a warrant for his boys. Game number 2, they come back, and their reward is that Baskin absolutely blows up. 13-1, I mean, there really isn't much more to say. This man does not miss. His solo play is always a joy to watch, and you can really see here why this character is never really allowed to be played by this man. He is an absolute monster, true to the ultimate.
Yeah, and he rotates over, grabs a couple of those kills early on, and it just didn't really stop. And how could it? I mean, I guess the argument we've always kind of had around this god is, well, there's only like 2 things she does, and if you miss them, then you know, you're sad about it, so on and so forth. But when you're hitting your stuff as consistently as Baskin is, you're absolutely nuking the enemy. I mean, you're looking at 16, 17, all the way until the end of this game. Baskin hits the 1-2. This is a level 16 Geb, and the one full rotation effectively gets it done there. 17 KDA from Baskin here in this game. I mean, it's easy for us, I think, to look back, Lermy, in hindsight and kind of say what could have been done. Is there anything that immediately comes to mind? Because that sure does seem hard to avoid. Diesel just ate a Sick'em Crush combo and didn't exist.
Yeah, it really does seem that way, but when it comes down to it, I like the strategy that Mollusk and his boys had. The crit really did work out that one time, but the issue is that no one else was able to follow up at that point. And Uzi, again, on this Nike, phenomenal performance, able to once again separate GTT and make it impossible for them to get onto Baskin. And now that that was the goal for them in this draft, they totally did it. I mean, there just was no other way to get to him, really. He's got a Khepri to revive him, and Uzi to make sure that their backline can't even touch him.
Right, it works out time and time again here. Even in loss, Uzi looks good on this Nike. So that's something actually Finch and Mifflin were just touching on there after game 2. You figure Gone to Tahiti needs to change something. I don't know if Baskin and the boys need to sway away from that Nike pick if they're given it first overall. But would you want to see Gone to Tahiti maybe change up some of those picks that we've seen? I mean, Mando obviously has shown that he can play those Guardians over in solo. The Geb maybe not the right idea here in this one. Amaterasu now a couple of games. Maybe it's time to make some changes in those departments.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I'm kind of over the Amaterasu myself. It certainly is a relic of this Golden Blade meta that we're in, right? But she's kind of been doing all these different builds. Mollusk has really been very creative with how he's been using it. Even still, I don't think it's going to beat out a very traditional jungler like we saw with Masked on the Thor. Just the fact that he had that global rotation ability made it so much easier. I mean, just popping the Anvil of Dawn made all of GTT get off of the Fire Giant.
That's true. The utility that was there from a Thor, sometimes unable to be matched by that Amaterasu. Lots to discuss here as we weave our way through picks and bans for game number 3. Nike, of course, kind of that big thread to follow, I think, given first overall to Baskin and the boys twice in a row. The roles are finally swapped here. So Gone to Tahiti will be in that first pick position. Certainly something you have to keep your eyes out for. Gino has been having this Ganesh band out. There's a world where I wonder if you leave it around so you can yourselves first pick it. But Gone to Tahiti don't seem to agree with that one. Given the success that we've seen from the Nike, how surprised would you be if Gone to Tahiti leave it up and maybe first pick it for themselves?
They could. I don't really think that that's kind of a Mando god. I think he more so really enjoys playing the Guardians. It could honestly be in the Mollusk God pool. He's played it before, so it could go back to that. But this still a bad there's no words. You have to ban that.
Yeah, after the 17 KDA from Baskin there in game number 2, it seems pretty necessary to take that Scylla off the table. Heimdall, Persephone, two gods in a similar category of priority to one another, both taken away here by Baskin and the boys. We'll have to see something, I guess not different technically, out of the Hunter role, since Heimdall has been banned out this entire set. It is the Emoja yet again, so it is an exact same strategy ban-wise from Gone to Tahiti. Back-to-back games, the double support ban, and then something centered around Baskin there in the mid lane, splitting the uprights. Hunbats, again, finds its way into the ban column. So this is, I think, the big telling moment here in this pick ban phase, Wormy. Gone to Tahiti have left a decent bit up here, a lot that Baskin and the boys are comfortable with. What do you think is worthwhile? You might get your answer before you really get a chance to respond. That Nike, of course, is something we've talked about, but it is Morrigan left up.
My thought process here is that they're once again going to be going for this GG easy comp where you walk up, you press taunt, or you press ultimate with the Ares, and you're able to set up the Morrigan super well. So that's my thought process in them selecting this first. Of course, no other gods have been selected here, but ooh, this is interesting here for Mask. Okay. He says, all right, Mollusk, this is your god, right? Well, now it's my god, and I'm going to do it better. At least that's what they're hoping coming into this next game. But if I'm asking the boys, this next pick is absolutely a Nike.
Going to be difficult to match what we have seen from the Amaterasu on the other side, and it is Nike locked in, assuming over in the solo, Amaterasu there in the jungle. So Baskin and the boys, they've got some great lockdown and fight potential in their first two picks here, Lermy.
I don't like the Xingqian hover. I think that they need to save it a little bit longer, but if I'm GTT, I'm taking away the Khepri from Gino. He had a great performance on it last game, and honestly force him onto something different. I think that giving him another really nice defensive support on top of the fact that Khepri has a pretty decent early game is a great choice for them, but instead they're going to go for the Xingqian. I don't hate it, I just don't love it.
Yeah, it is kind of a mixed results god we have seen here as of late. I mean, if you can get some beads burnt, that Whirlwind of Rage and Steel will be great in finding some big team fights for you. And I think to your point, Lermy, they're starting to build something in Gone to Tahiti that they had in game number 1. This Ullr, the Morrigan, very similar, can burn some beads on their own. You have a big team fighting potential support ultimate that really wants those beads burnt, but can also do it itself if need be. So I think a strong draft to return to some of the roots from game number 1 here for GTT. But B&B on the other side are going to round out their first 3 picks with the Hachiman. Another safety is kind of what comes to my mind there. We talked about that a little bit in the draft phase for game 2. And they're going to give it over once more to that the long lane there for Baskin and the boys.
As much as Meerkat would love to be the hard carry, I don't necessarily think he is of this squad, meaning that just putting him on something that can get through the early game, that'll stay safe in the mid game, and can pop off in the late game is a good choice for him. And of course, Hachiman does all 3, so a great selection for him. I think it's very safe to round out those picks there, and that leaves open a lot of choices here for Baskin in terms of mid lane characters, but instead, GTT are putting the focus back onto Gino and taking away that Khepri that I was talking about.
And it's smart. Put a lot of pressure on the support player to step up and play something that he's maybe not quite as used to. Big jungle bans for Baskin and the boys to round out their final 3. Bacchus could come to mind, I suppose. He has the ability to dive, do some great damage, and given a good ultimate, can help turn a team fight. Haven't seen him yet here in the circuit playoffs over in North America. Why maybe not?
I hate this pick. I'm sorry. I don't think Bacchus is very good into this draft at all. It gets poked out really easily by the Ullr, can cancel out the burp, and Morrigan really isn't super affected by it either, can also cancel out the burp, and Bacchus also has no CC immunity going into the Xingqian. Once that rotation from Mando comes out, he gets stuck basically every single time, and I don't know, man. Maybe Gino's just out of gods.
It might be. I mean, you've gotten what, 3 band away from you there in the ban phase? You got to go to something. Bacchus could be the answer. Not sure it will be, though. The long lane looks like Ullr, Kuzenbo, potentially Xingqian. I suppose you might have a better idea what Mando would probably prefer between the Xingqian and the Kuzenbo. Either way, you pair one of those two with an Ullr, going to be some kill presence in the long lane.
Yeah, that's for sure. They definitely have a great job at locking down both those characters. Honestly, I don't really think either of them have a better matchup than the other. I almost want to say that Kuzenbo would be the better matchup in the duo lane because he's got that push and can put a lot of poke on early. But Giannis here for Baskin. This is an interesting choice. In terms of comps overall, though, I gotta give it to GTT. Theirs is just easier to execute on and scales just a little bit better thanks to that Bakasura.
Yeah, the Bakasura will be swinging if Baskin and the boys are able to survive their way into the late game here. Seem to be rolling the dice. See if the mid lane namesake of the squad can carry maybe on this Giannis one final time. On the verge of going out are Baskin and the boys. Gone to Tahiti. If nothing else, I think have to be proud with what they've shown here this weekend, but a chance to move themselves to the grand finals. We got Michaela and her mama cheering you on, Gone to Tahiti. Can you get it done in game 3? Let's find out.
They might be the only ones, though. I know a lot of Baskin stands are in the chat, but as you said, it would be an excellent story if Gone to Tahiti were able to make it to the grand finals over Baskin and the boys. But can they do it with Uzi reprising the Nike pick with Mask on this Amaterasu instead of Mollusk being the pilot at this time? It feels like their work might be cut out for him here, Myth.
It's almost a completely new look for GTT here, but Moss is going to be looking to do largely the same things. This Bakasura needs to get involved quickly and early. We said it behind the scenes, you DM'd me. If you allow Baskin to play the game, you've already lost the game. Mollusk on Bakasura can prevent it from happening, but it's going to be a tall task. Giannis is a slippery god to lock down.
It can be hard to punish Baskin, but we have seen the kill everybody but Baskin strategy work at times. That might be in order here. We'll certainly have to see how Gone to Tahiti choose to play the game. One thing that has stayed the same for them, though, is Diesel on this Ullr pick. He likes to be able to get this pressure. He likes to be able to bully out Meerkat, and that has worked for the most part this set. I know Baskin's played well, but that other part of it, that other backline carry has struggled, largely because Diesel's kept him down.
Meerkat's entire job this game is to remain safe, which is reflected in his pick. Hachimon's one of the safest hunters you can go for. If you're in danger, hop on the horse, ride on out. I really do agree that this Bacchus pick, I like it a lot into the enemy comp. Bacchus is one of the best late-game scaling Guardians. He's about as tanky as you could hope for. And into the Morrigan, if Bacchus sees you first, it's going to be flop into hopefully some follow-up damage. Failing that, go into the burp and force her out of her stealth if she tries to escape, or force her into using the stun on you. No matter what, if Gino's able to attract Sops' attention, it's going well.
Mask, though, getting aggressive in mid, delete Sops early for first blood, and Baskin and the boys are already on the board. And this is what this Amaterasu pick can do. I don't think people think of it as a pressure, aggressive type pick, but it has that opportunity, especially against immobile mages like Morrigan.
Ama very well could be the strongest level 2 jungler in the game. Just the raw burst potential from the second and third ability paired with each other, followed up by likely 1 or 2 auto attacks. That's going to do about 60 to 70% of anyone's health bar at this point in the game, and he uses it incredibly well. Getting an early kill onto the Morrigan is going to be huge. Not only is it going to allow Baskin to pull a slight lead just from farming up efficiently, but Morrigan's already a god that's going to be struggling to find farm, whereas Giannis is one of the most aggressive farming mages in the game. He can rotate around the map with very low risk and just take out back camps on cooldown.
And last game, Myth, we gave Mando a bit of a hard time for the Geb pick, really not finding much value. That's just objectively true. But certainly Geb solo can work. What do you think about this Xingqian pick that he's taken over here to the solo lane this time? Is he going to be able to rotate over and find some value against this comp?
Xingqian solo is a pick that I am oh so familiar with because one of my old teammates, Dworst, used to run this exclusively. He was a one-trick. And what do you pick Xingqian for in the solo lane? I don't want to lose the matchup. I want to sustain the HP war, and eventually I'll rotate in and have an ultimate that can force beads. That's about what you can expect from him. He's going to be a very strong frontliner, but his damage output's going to be a lot lower than something like a Jormungandr or something along those lines. His ability to dive the backline is going to be a lot harder to perform because he doesn't have that semi-global ultimate. This Jingxian pick tells me that solo lane strategy for GTT is be left alone, hope he doesn't lose out to Uzi, and pray that he rotates into the late game and is able to burn some beads.
So not too dissimilar from what we saw with the Geb, but I think maybe with a little bit more potential to fight back in the early. As you said, probably not soloing anything, but should be able to stand his ground as Mollusk has been caught. Very patient on the beads, uses them at the tail end of the belt so that he can escape, and Mollusk ends up A-OK, but he's already a bit behind Mass. No surprise with Mass getting that first blood, but it's going to make those Bakasura's life even harder.
And this Bakasura electing to go for the beads does give him a degree of safety now, but he doesn't have Blink, so his engages are going to be a lot weaker.
Mask and Gino rotating over to left. Diesel looking for the leap over the wall, but changing his mind. Finally electing to disengage, just kind of leaving Cope to his fate. That is the second kill of the game, as a through space and time for Baskin was also on the mark. 2 now on the board for B&B.
Yeah, Baskin hit the first Yanis ult of the game, one of the harder abilities to land from a range, and I don't think we're going to see him miss at all now. B&B off to a fantastic start. The mid laners are equivalent right now, but Yanis should be able to pull ahead raw farm-wise. Mando Warrior gets his ult forced out, which means that if we really want to, B&B can send Mast over. That's a pretty easy kill to pick up.
Mask won't have the blink for any future gank, though, at least for the next 2 minutes. He uses it to get over the wall, trying to see if he can get to the speed buff in time to stop Mollusk from stealing it, but Mollusk with the Bakasura, aware of how quickly he can clear those buffs, was able to successfully steal it. Meerkat, using beads, worried about being hit by the axe, is able to stay safe, though, as Cope can't get abreast.
Mollusk is doing a very good job of setting the farm pace. There's 2 ways you can approach the jungle. You can either put pressure on the map and force B&B or Mast in this example to either match it or try and out-farm and scale better into the mid-game once the team fights start. Or you could play this farm-focused jungle, which says, I'm going to just spend the entirety of the time getting as far ahead as I can through just back camps, minions, leeching waves, and eventually when I show up to the fight, if I'm far enough ahead, I'm just going to be that important. Mollusk seems to be approaching with the, I need to farm up. I need to make sure that I can transition well into the mid game. I need to get my katanas online. I need to get boots so I can sit on Baskin. That seems to be his strategy, and if GTT want to fully commit to that, they have the draft for it. They can play incredibly safe with this Kuzenbo. This Uller should be able to establish pressure on his own, and having a leap in that means that he can just escape the majority of situations. The Hachimons shouldn't be able to fight into it. So if GTT's entire strategy is just buy time for the mid game, that's fine, but they have to be worried about the scaling that B&B's composition has. This Bacchus, as I stated earlier, is going to be incredibly tanky come late. It's going to make it a very hard time for Sops to operate. Mast is going to be dealing immense amounts of damage, especially considering his early lead.
Cope and Gino having a small skirmish in the jungle, but as you mentioned, this mid-game for GTT is going to have to be their focus. It's just that even then, it's not guaranteed. Sops looking for a stun, but there's just nothing there. Gone to Tahiti are struggling to find their initiation, and that's one more thing I think that's worth talking about. Who is the initiator for this GTT roster? I mean, once Mando Warrior joins them, I suppose that could be him, but up until that point, it's going to be tough for them to get fights started off on their terms.
And even then, it's all conditional engagements. Mando's going to need beads burned if he wants to get any value out of that ultimate. Cope is going to have to put his entire body in danger to find those pushes to displace the enemy team, and then use his own ultimate likely for self-peel. The entirety of GTT's strategy come teamfight phase is maybe we were able to burn some beads early on, and then Mollusk has to find his way into the backline, find an ultimate, and just repel the entirety of the enemy team with raw damage instead of CC.
It could also be Sops. Stuns are a good way to start the fight as Gino gets locked down. Mando comes over the wall and GTT get their first kill of the game. Mando can't quite catch up to Baskin, who remains elusive, but they are at least able to find one as Uzi continues to push forward. He sees an opportunity to get this kill on the Sops. Uzi gets stunned underneath the tower as well. That was risky from Cope, pushing Uzi towards Sops, but it ends up working out in the end.
It was risky, and the risk was paid in dividends. He forced Sops into using his beads there. That degree of safety that he might have had on this Morgan is now gone. I imagine now Mass is going to be looking constantly to find that engagement. Cope just has to say, I'm sorry. Sops gets to roll his eyes and feel bad about being unsafe for the next couple of minutes, and B&B know it now, so they're going to aggress into the enemy jungle.
Wow, Mass able to show up and help Meerkat with a purple buff invade, even up against Diesel, who has had really good pressure on him here so far. But if you look at the actual experience, it does look like Meerkat's pretty even with Diesel, if not a little bit ahead of him. So despite the fact that Uller has found some bully opportunities, Meerkat has stayed pretty even. I imagine getting an assist hasn't hurt that, as so far, that second carry who we mentioned earlier, needing to be that secondary threat for Baskin, that's been working. Now Mollis, though, in some trouble. Stun comes out, but he remains patient, doesn't use the beads, and makes his way out.
Mollis is just an absolute farm machine right now. He's about a level and a half up over Mass, but he's had zero pressure on the map. We've only really seen him engage a fight once, and it was in mid on a fight that GTT had already won. Mollis needs to start to get involved, use this lead to start swinging things back in his team's favor.
Mass has been pushed back towards the squad. Uzi leaps in, but you cannot peel the watery grave as Cook gets the second kill for GTT. Now it's Mando's turn, throwing Uzi back towards the regurgitate, which keeps him crippled. Mando gets another kill, but Mollusk ends up bowling to Baskin. Where did that damage even come from? I see it through space and time, and that's taken the Bakasura completely out of the equation.
I didn't even get a chance to track the portal with my own eyes. No way Mollusk was prepared for that to come through. Baskin has hit all of his through space and time so far. 10 minutes of the game, he's only tossed out 2, but 100% win rate? Who else but Baskin? Maybe Hurry win, but even then, this guy, Wooney Kim, is absolutely amazing, and he's been farming the map incredibly well. He's going for a very damage-centric build, Sphere of Desolation already available to him. He's been farming the bat camps very aggressively, which might be feeding into the reason that Mast is slightly behind in experience. But that said, putting Baskin ahead, almost always good trade.
But I don't want it to be lost that that's a good fight from Gone to Tahiti. It's a 2-for-1 at the end of the day, and it did show that there are some opportunities for them to use the little bit of control they've got between this Kuzenbo and this Xing Chen, effectively bringing targets right to Mollusk and letting him eat, essentially, on this Bakasura. There are some opportunities there, especially depending on who Sops transforms into. It still seems like it's high execution, very narrow windows, which is kind of the only complaint I've got about this draft.
My main concern for GTT is how does this work once the team fight phase truly starts up? Once we start to see 5-on-5 engagements, who's going to be the one working through the entirety of the front line that B&B has? Mast, Gino, Uzi, all of them are going to be incredibly tanky, incredibly damaging frontline targets, whereas GTT have Mando, Warrior, and Cope really to create space for Sops and Mollusk. It's going to be very hard for them to find the time to get their damage onto the priority targets on the side of B&B.
It could be tough, and I was going to mention earlier that I think we sometimes undervalue the potential for Morrigan to be a pseudo-initiator. Using that stealth to get in close for a stun and then transforming right away can oftentimes start fights off on good notes. It's just obviously very, very risky. If the Morrigan gets caught out while trying to make that kind of pathing happen, then almost certainly Sops would end up falling. Much like Diesel's in some trouble over here in left, the Intoxicate brings him low. Beads are used to immune the stun. Finally, we see it through space and time that doesn't quite hit as Meerkat can't find his eagle-eyed shots, and that means Diesel makes it out alive.
I just want to point out how close that through space and time was from the opposite side of the map. I mean, Baskin just threw it out, and I'm sure he was confident that he was going to hit it, but you got to be more consistent with it. You have to be willing to save those ultimates for rotation paths.
Regurgitate, not a whole lot of help here, but that means Uzi ends up making it out of there. Really thought they'd be able to lock Uzi further down inside the tower, and now Baskin the boys can go start up the Gold Fury. Cope comes in with the Watery Grave, trying to push everyone off to reset, but they don't quite get it. Gold Fury low, Baskin the boys secured, and now Mask is in some trouble, turns to the Hachiman, and is able to get out of there with the horse, but what about Cope? Big damage from Diesel's nice, but that's not going to deter Mask as he steps further forward. Unstable Vortex can't connect either, and Gone to Tahiti don't lose as much as they could have.
Nice EI Jutsu, but not enough to get him away from Diesel with a fantastic hail of arrows over the wall. Baskin makes it out safely himself. That's a 1 for Gold Fury trade in favor of B&B. Now they've got a slight gold lead to work with. The XP should start to be leaning a little bit more back in their favor. Right now, the really only huge XP deficits are in the jungle and in support in favor of GTT. They can continue to look for engagements, but now that Gold Fury's down, duo lane pressure is not going to mean nearly as much, so Diesel's just going to have to spin his wheels for a little bit. The only objective that's truly available for GTT to push towards is that very low mid tower or Pyromancer.
But what a close game it is. You just saw on the charts, gold in one team's favor, experience going the other direction. You don't see that often. And you can even tell in the levels, Baskin has a lead over Sops, but Diesel and Mollusk have a lead over their opponents. They're, lane to lane, this game's basically even as the red buff invade from Baskin and the boys is successful. They had everyone over here to make that one work.
And there's no risk of it because no one's in solo lane pushing it. They can just do whatever they want on the map.
Yeah, good ultimate from Baskin. That allows him to avoid the Whirlwind of Rage and Steel from Mando Warrior. Uzi stuck under the tower, but Sentinel of Zeus is a second health bar, and he makes it out easy. Mando wants to keep up the aggression, but there's just nothing happening with him that far ahead of the rest of his team. So Gone to Tahiti regroup underneath the tier 1 as Baskin and the boys are starting to stretch out a little bit, invade, push down towers, and see exactly what they can take.
This seems to be their strategy the majority of the time. If B&B put up a huge front in mid, almost always you'd expect Meerkat to be split pushing or Uzi to be split pushing and just looking for anything they can get on the map.
A better regurgitate this time means that Mollusk able to get the kill onto Uzi. But what does that open up? It looks like there's a gank in left from B&B, but Sops, turning into the Hachiman again, was able to find some safety. Looks like Meerkat's not the only one riding Hachiman for a little bit of safety. Sops is happy to do so as well.
The game is almost completely even at this point. Only 1,000 gold differentiating these teams, no objectives available. Neither squad truly seems like they're comfortable looking for 5-on-5 engagements. Every single fight this game has been separate, just 2-on-2s, 1-on-2s, 3-on-2s. It's not like either squad is very confident grouping up and forcing the issue. Right now, I think that favors GTT. They're able to find these picks consistently across the map. It's just one misplay going towards the solo lane, committing that much resources, losing them out on the Gold Fury. But even then, they were almost able to swing the fight in their favor.
I brought the fight into a pretty good position, but this is the slowest paced game we've seen yet here, Miffle, as both these teams are kind of a bit lost about where exactly their best moment is. You mentioned earlier, though, that the mid game might be the focus here for GTT. Once this Fury's back up, with them having the experience lead a pretty significant way, even though gold is favoring B&B, would you expect them to start looking for an objective?
I think GTT can certainly look for objective. When you're lacking on engage, as GTT is, they have to be the first ones on the scene. They have to be at the Gold Fury. Force B&B to come into you and deal with the damage, the strengths of your composition. I fully expect GTT to be there on time for that Oni Fury, get ready for it, get the defensive warding, and position themselves for an ambush. Right now, still, B&B's only true engage potential is through Gino and Uzi, and even then, it's not that strong. Just a couple knockups, maybe a stun. Sure, it outclasses what GTT has, but even then, it's not enough to win the fight on its own.
Mando got the beads out from Mask. It felt like Gone to Tahiti really wanted to capitalize right away, but I think that's good work to help out with their next fight. But Mando is way up on his own, narrowly avoids getting hit by the through space in time as Mollusk is way in the backline. Why are they insisting on this fight way up by the blue buff? I'm not sure, but Baskin and the boys come out the better. The first kill favors them, and they're still looking for more aggression as they push out Mando Warrior. Not a whole lot that they can get, but that felt like an overreach.
The frontliners at GTT have some weird fixation of just staring at Uzi and dropping all their CC onto him. Now Baskin in a little bit of trouble. The thorns are popped by Cope, but he should be able to get out of that situation alive.
Yeah, well, he didn't have enough damage to kill Baskin alone underneath the tower. This is what I'm talking about. These engagements feel a bit forced from Gone to Tahiti, when really they started off well. I just don't see that they have to dive underneath the tier 1, or they have to go all the way beyond that blue buff over there. I like the idea to look for pressure, but as you said, I feel like they'd be better suited to fight near objectives.
I agree completely, and it seems like there was a slight miscommunication. Mollis finds himself inside a tier 2 tower. The rest of his team is staring down a full health Nike with a half of a health shield on him as well. There's not much backup that he had there, and again, I guess we just have to credit Uzi for that. He's been doing a fantastic job of creating space for his team.
And the Oni Fury's low. This is the exact opposite of the way it was gonna go, but Tahiti's still the Oni Fury that makes up for all past wrongs. Now leave with Mando Warrior this low. They do correctly recognize that retreat's the right call, and they've helped get this game back towards even. But do you see them making a push with these Oni Fury waves, or will they play it slow?
Look, with the game as even as it is at this point, I'm not sure that I'd be confident looking for a push outside of maybe the tier 1 tower on left or the tier 1 tower on mid. But you have to make a decision. GTT can't split the map like that. They can't go 4-on-1 or 3-on-2 because they're not far enough ahead.
Poor Meerkat, he just walked into a dark alley and caught the hands. Mollusk and the squad was there, and he ends up dropping. Now Gaunt's Tahiti can start up this Pyromancer through space and time. Would have been on the mark, but Tahiti do a good job resetting it. They go right back to burning it. Meanwhile, Uzi has to use the Sentinel of Zeus defensively to try and stay alive. Sops turns into the Giannis. Point blank through space and time doesn't connect, and Uzi gets to walk away scot-free.
I guess Baskin was just making it look easy. Sops thought he could do it too.
Gino wants to try and find the leap over the wall, but it just isn't there. The portal's too late, and Gino ends up falling. Mass dashes out of there as well as the Regurgitate finds no value. This last fight from these three teams, I don't know, Mip, we've seen better from both of them, for sure.
100%. GTT doesn't even need to commit to that engagement. After picking Meerkat and the through space and time is expanded from Baskin, they could have just backed up to the Pyromancer, got the objective, or even looked towards Fire Giant, considering they got a couple TKOs as well. Instead, they decided to chase out the fight. There's a couple mechanical issues where they're not quite able to land their abilities, and what could have been a crippling play in favor of GTT turns into just an okay one.
Right, I mean, this last sequence for GTT, when you dissect it, is actually pretty good, but the reason why I feel like we can't frame it that way is that I think pretty easily could have been more. They steal the Oni Fury, they get the Pyromancer, they get a pick onto Gino, but it could have been more. And up against Baskin and the boys, when we saw earlier that up 12,000 gold, it was hard to win. It's fair criticism, man. If you want to beat them, you gotta be pretty close to perfect.
Yeah, you gotta come correct if you're gonna approach the king, and the crown rests cleanly on Baskin's head right now. Uzi as well has earned his place on the throne. Right now, B&B are looking like they can start to turn these team fights around. GTT's got away with a couple clean engagements. They've got the objectives for themselves, but even then, the lead hasn't really established that much in their favor. And now, this is where the team fight phase is really gonna start to kick off. And on a 5-on-5 engagement, with the compositions in front of me, I'm favoring B&B.
Gino has been stunned. Cope blinks behind for the push. The portal's good to peel out Mando Warrior, and the tier 2 tower does come down. Looks like Gaunt and Tahiti are trying to disengage, but that threshold has kept Cope around. Good Whirlwind of Rage and Steel brings Gino back to Diesel, and Diesel able to find the kill. Relics get him away from Mask, who does dash back, but Mollusk in the backline with the Regurgitate, and he's got the double. Can't quite stick to Mask, but rejoins the squad as Uzi has been locked down as well. Gaunt and Tahiti, all wrongs can be forgiven with a team fight like this.
That was a clean engagement from Gaunt to Tahiti. They move into the tower, immediately force the beads off the Baskin. Baskin has to back up. They continue looking at the tanks. No one's able to peel them out because the CC lockdown is so clean. Mollis comes in a little bit late, which is perfect for your jungler. It's exactly what you want. He cleans it up after all the relics are down. Doesn't even have to trade out any of his health bar. That's a clean play. Results in a Phoenix. Well on you, GTT.
It is a well-fought fight for them, and I think I'm forgiving myself a little bit by not giving this Gaunt to Tahiti team their fair credit. This is, if I'm not mistaken, the SOC representative here who has made a really impressive run. Now, Mando sticking around a little bit too far on his own. He's still A-okay, no problem there, but still an impressive run for them all the way. But if you get this close, if you've got Baskin and the boys up against the ropes, I know that they wouldn't be happy going home here.
Oh, absolutely not, especially with a 6,000 gold lead at this point. Gold Fury's respawning as well. GTT are in the driver's seat solidly. Let's make no qualms about that now. B&B are on the back foot, and their team comp isn't that strong from behind. They need Baskin able to blow up these targets. He's the only consistent source of burst damage from his squad. If he gets forced out of the engagement early, there's no way BNB win.
Regurgitate dropped at Uzi's feet. Sentinel of Zeus has bought him some time, but Mollusk is chewing through him. Mando right there waiting for him over the wall, and Diesel completes the kill. A rampage for the 5-0-0 Uller. No assists here. I'm getting kills if I'm involved, and GTT come right back to the FG.
This should be the FG for free. Baskin can't move up because Moss has put up an impenetrable wall of pure damage. No one can match him in a one-on-one engagement. He might be able to take two just because of Golden Blade. Now that Fire Giant's going to go in their favor, Mid Phoenix is already down. There's 2 tier 2 towers available and a Gold Fear to continue pushing this lead.
Through space and time does not connect, neither does the unstable Vortex. Mollusk does great work to avoid him and should be able to give the information that a lot of BNB are on this left side of the map. That's why Tahiti came running over quickly. Nothing else there, so they'll take this Primal Fury and add a little bit of extra to their coffers, but they still have the tier 2 in duo, tier 2 over in solo, and the Mid Phoenix already down. This is absolutely a big opportunity for Tahiti to maybe send Baskin and the boys home.
24 minutes in, 10,000 gold, and a Fire Giant. I'm getting deja vu. If they clean up the push, and this push, their siege is a lot easier to execute than it was in Game 1. Now it's all on Mando Warrior. Blink in, do whatever you gotta do. Find the Washing Machine ultimate. Cope can do the exact same thing, except he's a Beyblade. Diesel's gonna be dealing damage from a range, and Sops can be literally anyone you want him to be, whereas Moss is gonna be able to blow up the backline incredibly easily. Once you're inside Yanis' Phoenixes, he has nowhere to escape to. There's no walls to go through. Bakasura has a fantastic counter matchup.
And he's got this Blood Forge now. Once he's able to get that first kill, he'll have a waterfall going, sort of a much smaller version of what Kali can do on the back of that health shield and keep that fight going. Sops is 0-1-9, but he's been impactful, trying to provide some utility with these transformations as well. Gone to Tahiti are right at the doorstep of finding an impressive victory, but here's the big play from Baskin and the boys. Through space and time, over the wall, cuts down Diesel, but he's still standing for now. Meanwhile, Sops and Cope are trying to get to the backline to find some more damage. Mollusk comes in as well. Regurgitate down, and Mask will end up falling. They may have sprung the trap, but GTT were ready.
Gino in a little bit of trouble is going to fall to Mollusk now. The fight continues. Uzi all alone. This might be game, and it was a clean play from Baskin. The ultimate through the wall finds its home into Diesel's chest, but the Aegis response was just way too fast.
And Gone to Tahiti know they have a chance to grab the win here. Nothing else matters. They can take down this Titan. Meerkat and Baskin, the only ones to try and defend, but they don't have a way to get it done. Titan down to half. They can't even leave the fountain. And Gone to Tahiti sent Baskin and the boys home.
You called it from the get. You said if you're allowing Baskin to play the game, you've already lost. GTT said, oh, he's right. It worked in Game 1. Let's do it in Game 3. And that's clean play across the board, but it was a lot slower than we're used to seeing. The first 10 minutes were very reminiscent of European SMITE, but that's just because Mollusk was biding his time, trying to get his items online, farming the jungle incredibly efficiently. The first engagement we saw with every single member saw Mollusk up 2 or 3 levels over Mast.
Mollusk had a great game here in those last few team fights, and really I feel like the win that we can talk about for Tahiti really does come down to that last fight in mid and those objective steals as well in keeping them close here throughout this game. There weren't a ton of clean engagements, but the few that we saw were on the side of Tahiti. Congrats to that team for finding this upset. No way that I could have predicted this, and now I got to get it back to the desk to see if they saw it coming either.
Yeah, I'll echo it again. Big congrats to Gone to Tahiti. The SOC team not only makes an upset earlier in the weekend, now knock out Baskin and the boys and make their way to the grand finals. They take down 2 Titans in this one. The Titan on the map, and then, of course, the Titan, the number 1 seed SCC team from North America. How do we get there, though, Lermy? I mean, things are close back and forth throughout the first few minutes.
Mollusk just was an absolute farming machine during that game. Good on him to pick the right skin there for Bakasura, because that's exactly personifying every single thing that he did that game. If he was walking around the map, he was eating minions left and right, picking up whatever farm there was, and you could really see it. I mean, he was constantly 2 levels up what seemed like the whole time, and you can see here that Mando Warrior was right on his side, pushing up here and forcing out everyone to help make space for this Bakasura.
Yeah, I think Mando had a great game this time around. We figured the Xing Qin would need to find some value, whether it is an ultimate that goes on to people whose beads are already burnt or doing the bird's bead burning himself. And throughout the first 5-6 kills of this game, Mando had participated in all of them. You could see where a lot of this the mentality was, I suppose, for Gone to Tahiti early on. But it was a lot of this. You know, Mollusk is 1, 2, and 2. The slash line isn't all that great. 18 minutes into this game. But it's your point, Lermy, that he's farming the entire time. And it's only a matter of time until this Bakasura is able to find his way into the back line. And Baskin and the boys didn't have consistent enough fuel to stop him.
I questioned this crit build on the Bakasura, but honestly, they said it on the cast best. Kill Baskin, and his boys aren't going to do anything, and that's exactly the game plan here for this Bakasura. Chase down the Giannis as much as physically possible, get him out of there, and then everyone else is easy pickings.
And right at the end there, I mean, that's a play by Baskin and the boys where they like sell out. That's everything they have to try to get through the wall there, find a pick, and hopefully turn a fight for themselves in their favor. Unable to do so. They burn a lot of ultimates, don't get any kills, and instead end up losing the game. So yes, do not scratch your eyes. Gone to Tahiti, complete the upset, move themselves onto the grand finals. Your post-game stats, it's really only Mollusk who died more than once here in this one, but top damage in the game seems to be well worth it. Now you start to look on to the grand finals. Locked and Goated versus Gone to Tahiti, Lermy. How close is this one?
It could be kind of close considering they just got this upset. They're probably, like, the morale has to be through the roof. I mean, these guys are ecstatic coming out of the SOC and ending up in the grand finals of a tournament with 3 other SCC teams that were present. They personally knocked 2 of them out of there.
Yeah, if we're following, whatever the law of relativity, whatever that is, Locked and Goated, beat Bloogie and the Woogies, who then lost to Baskin and the boys. Baskin and the boys just lost to Gone to Tahiti. Therefore, Gone to Tahiti is better than Baskin and the boys, who are better than Locked and Goated. I don't know. All the math leads up to a potentially very close grand finals here. But Aggro and I had a conversation. He's on the desk with me for the next set, so I imagine we'll talk about this a little bit as well. We almost made the argument that Locked and Goated looked like the best playing team coming into today. Now we've seen a little bit more data, haven't seen them yet today, but yesterday their games were very clean. Is that something you can get behind? Do you think this Locked and Goated team maybe is playing the cleanest from every team we've seen this weekend?
Definitely, I think they're doing a much better job than what we've seen them in the past, and a big majority of that is the shot calling and leadership coming out of El Leon. So I think if he's able to work on that same level as what we saw yesterday, they take that in 2 games. But the question mark is, have Gone to Tahiti even thought they would get this far? Did they plan for this next couple of sets? Because I couldn't have guessed this. I don't think any of our analysts could have guessed this either. But the fact of the matter is, they are here, and hopefully they come to play because they're there. They're in the finals, baby. They could make it all the way.
That's right. You hope it's not a dog who doesn't know what to do with his tail once he's caught it sort of scenario. If all these games are starting to fuel some of that SMITE fandom in you, and you need a way to show it, look no further than the SMITE Fan Forge. Users submitted some art designs, and they were all voted on, and some of that got turned in to hoodies. I think we got mouse pads, pillows, everything you could think of. We put some SMITE designs on it. That's SMITE Fan Forge, a great way to show off your SMITE fandom. Look no further for SMITE competitive action on this Sunday. Ladies and gentlemen, the North American Finals of the SCC Phase 2 tournament right on the other side of this break.